Time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Mary Jo Foley's here. We got a big show for you. A new version of Windows 10, mobile and desktop, if you're on the fast ring. We'll also talk about the big Microsoft event coming up. Some new devices from Microsoft. Paul and Mary Jo will speculate as to what we'll see. That's next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 431, recorded Wednesday, September 16th, 2015. Now, more Doomier. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Igloo Software. Igloo is an intranet you'll actually use. Use blogs, calendars, file sharing, forums, task management, and wikis to work better together with your teams. Sign up now and try it for free at igloosoftware.com/twit. And by IT Pro TV. A good IT Pro is always learning, and IT Pro TV is the resource to keep your IT skills up to date with engaging and informative video tutorials. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the lifetime of your account, go to itpro.tv/WW and use the code WW30. And by lynda.com. The online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/windows. That's LYNDA.com/windows. It's time for Windows Weekly. Lo and behold, look who's here. Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com, Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. It seems like a year ago that we were in New York City together.
Yes.
Yep. How did that happen?
It was only a week ago. Amazing.
Fun that was, though.
Going back, I'm going to be there next week, and then I'll be there again for a big event coming up.
That's the big story. We could start right with that. Kick off here with Microsoft's having an event next month.
Woohoo. Yes.
What is it about?
Which we were kind of expecting.
Oh,
yeah.
No surprise.
Yeah.
Windows 10 devices of all kinds, shapes and sizes. Yep.
So this is going to be the Surface Pro 4 announcement.
Yeah. And other things, we believe.
Maybe the band, like the Microsoft
the band. Yeah. Band 2.0 and the 2 Lumia phones we keep hearing about, City Man and Talkman.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe something else. We keep hearing hints that there's some other hardware device that we don't know about.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, there are some we do know about. Like there's going to be a Continuum dock for one of the phones.
Right.
Special cases for at least one of the phones, probably for both.
Yep.
Some kind of, well, a new speaker, a new little speaker.
Yep. A new pen for the Lumia phone. Right?
Yep. For the big one, yeah.
So it's October 6th at the old post office.
Yeah.
I didn't even look to see where. That's so fantastic. That's what it
In
is.
New York City. That's fun.
We're going to
It's
mail
called,
it in, Leo.
Yeah, Moynihan Station, which is right across from Penn Station.
Fun. And what time is the event?
It's 10 a.m. Eastern, and Microsoft is going to webcast it, so you guys can stream.
We will stream it, and Mike Elgin will anchor our coverage because I'm not getting up at that hour. And
I'm going to have to get up at 4:30 or something just to get there in time.
I know. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to? Well, spend the night. Go down to that beautiful hotel.
No, it's so expensive. I'll go to the Hotel Pennsylvania.
Hotel Pennsylvania. That would be.
That might be the one place I've stayed at that was worse than that place I was complaining about in San Francisco a couple years ago. No, I don't think so.
So you're going to take the train in.
Yeah, but I am going to stay that night because
you're doing a meetup.
We're doing a meetup.
Paul never drinks at these meetups.
No.
But if he were, he wouldn't want to take the chance of getting.
If I were going to drink, it would be at Rattle and Hum, and it would be during a Microsoft event.
Yes.
Right. So Rattle was so happy to have us last week that they're going to have us again on October 6th, the day of the launch. Fun. So if you're in New York that day, you should come to Rattle from 4 to 7. A lot of your friends in the Microsoft press will be there besides.
That's what I was going to say. It's not going to be just us. I mean, I know Brad's coming, and I'm sure other people will get other people to come.
You're going to get...
And they'll tell 2 friends, and they'll tell 2 friends.
You're going to get so many more people iBookery, who was there, said in the chat room, Leo talked to everybody twice.
You actually, Leo, I was really nervous about last week. I
know.
I thought you were going to be
Cranky?
kind of plugged into the corner of the room and not able to move and not able to speak to anybody.
No, it was a perfect amount of people.
Yeah, it was good.
We don't know how many. I didn't count, but and people came and went. So it was, I would say, probably a total of maybe 150 people over the 2.5, 3 hours. It was a lot of fun, and I was nice because I did get to talk to everybody, so that was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many pictures. So many.
Yes, thank you, thank you, everybody. We're really glad that that you all came, and you can now do it again, October 6th, 4 to 7 p.m.
Yep.
Now that you know the way, everybody now knows where to go to Rattle and Hum. We had people come up from Baltimore, from Pennsylvania, Providence. It's fun. The train system's so
Boston
good.
as well. There's a woman from Boston. Remember?
It's very easy to get in. You get right to Penn Station, and so you can walk right over to Rattle and Hum.
Yeah.
So it's easy for all.
It's my home away from home now. I've been there a lot.
33rd between 5th and Madison. A little closer to Madison.
Yeah.
Right across from Staples.
A lot of the
You just walk until you hit Staples.
Right. If we get any hardware, we'll bring it with us.
Oh, do you think you will?
Yep.
We don't know.
Yeah, I bet we do. I bet
So
we do.
Rex is saying maybe there'll be HoloLens. You think that's a doable?
I mean, you hear Windows devices, you can speculate.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if they show HoloLens. I don't know if they'll actually have the developer edition of that out yet.
Right.
Is this an event? This is not an event for developers.
No.
This
is about
announcement.
the new first-party devices.
Yeah, this is like an announcement event, which Microsoft
Yeah,
has
remember
not done
originally
a lot
they were going to do separate events, and they decided that the pros of doing one big event outweighed the cons.
This is like the events that Apple does, sort of, where you
Yeah.
Yep. Is that something new? Has Microsoft done this much in the past?
I don't think they've ever done this before.
All the hardware together?
Yeah,
No.
I don't think so.
This is new.
Surface has always had their own thing. Obviously with Lumia, especially when they were at Nokia, but also since then has always done kind of their own thing. Or they've, gone to Mobile World Congress or Build or whatever. I can't think of another event like this where it's...
No, not really.
No. I mean, of course, they never really had this much hardware before either.
Right.
Well, that's a good
point.
point.
The idea of one event is one Windows and Windows 10 everywhere, right? So the best way to show that is, hey, look at all the stuff we have that can run Windows 10 in some way.
Think about it. They could show off their Windows 10 keyboards and mice, the Xbox controller stuff. There's all kinds of stuff they could show. They really do have a bunch of hardware all of a sudden.
I completely forgot. It's not like Microsoft's been a hardware company all this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
They've been
City
making
Man
mice since, before I wrote about Microsoft. I mean,
yeah.
And
there's
somebody
no
in the
real
chat room,
clues.
somebody in the chat room says City Man and Talk Man are going to be released with something interesting.
The dock, we know, and the pen.
Lack of interest.
The Continuum dock actually is interesting.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, one has a pen. They have special covers, where you can, when the cover's closed and someone calls, you see their face in the hole in the cover and stuff like that. I mean, there'll be some neat things like that.
As a number of people are pointing out, though, Windows 10 Mobile is not the best shape right now.
I've not heard that. What do you mean?
Oh, man.
Actually, that's one of our topics for later.
Okay,
It
we'll
is
save that for
later
later.
on in the show notes.
What else? Anything else?
The little
exciting?
OS that couldn't.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Anything else
How about
the hardware?
How about home automation?
We don't think
No?
we're going to have
Nothing
anything
like
there.
that?
Oh, there's so much they don't do, Leo. It just makes me...
How about
sad.
more of those perfect pixel monitor thingies?
Oh, Surface Hub stuff?
Oh,
Surface
the Surface.
Hub.
I don't think that'll be part of this event.
Okay. They'll use
They
them.
push back Surface Hub delivery to January. Is that
January.
right?
Oh, that's the
So I
January
don't...
next year. Yeah.
It probably doesn't make a lot of sense to talk about that.
Yeah. Although we don't, these devices, we should say, we don't think any of them are going to ship on October 6th. We're pretty sure they're not.
Yeah, this will be an announcement. In other words, if we get them, if we get any of them, it will be for purposes of review, and the devices probably will ship in November.
Even a Surface
guessing-
Pro 4 couldn't that be available now?
Not now.
They've never
No,
done that.
they need the Skylake, right?
It could be, but
Right.
they've never actually shipped it. I mean, they could. It's late enough, but
Is Skylake available in quantities now? I mean, can you
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So they could.
Yeah. They could. You know, what makes me think they won't is usually the way they stagger this for the press is they give us hardware to review, and then a couple weeks later, it's available commercially. So we don't have the devices right now.
Right. And then people can actually read reviews of it before
Right.
they get it.
Right. So I'm guessing November, maybe late October, but I'm guessing November with something like pre-orders in the next week or two right after the event. Yeah.
I mean, even the Apple stuff, a bunch of it. Actually, Apple didn't ship anything that day except for an iPad they barely mentioned. I mean, all their stuff is October, November. Well, some of it's now, but, and none of it shipped that day, really, except for that one thing. I think that's how you maintain secrecy. I think at some point you have to reveal the stuff to whatever federal regulators, and it goes out public. And
Right. That's a compelling reason for that. If it's a new phone that isn't FCC approved.
Yeah, you want to hide it as long as you can.
Yeah, that's a good. Makes sense.
Well, whatever it is, I think it's going to be a big deal.
Yay.
Yeah, I've heard Satya Nadella is going to be there. I've heard, and I've read in a couple of other stories. So once he comes to something, it shows you that's a very big priority for the company. Obviously, I'm sure Panos Panay will be there, who runs engineering for all the premium hardware. I bet Terry Myerson probably would be there too.
Yeah, because he basically runs devices right now.
He does. He runs devices and Windows. So it should be a really big event with, good demos, hopefully. Cameras that actually show you the screen when things are being demoed.
Right.
The basics.
Yeah, I think they'll learn their lesson.
They're never going to live that down, are they? Never, ever, ever.
They're never going to let IFA broadcast their event for them. They'll end up doing it for themselves. No, you shouldn't.
Hey, boy. They could have invited us. We'd have done a better job.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Next time, Microsoft. I have a switcher, and I'm not afraid to use it.
One thing we should mention, on Surface Pro 4, there's a lot of rumors going around about how many different models there'll be and how big the screens will be. Because I've seen a lot of people saying there'll be one model that's the size of the current Surface Pro 3, and then there'll be something like a 14-inch. We don't. I haven't heard that firsthand.
Where does the 14-inch stuff come from?
I don't know where that's coming from.
That has the sound of something that was just pulled out of someone's butt to me. I
don't know.
I have heard.
I've seen it repeated a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I have too, and I've tried to look to see where it came from, and it just a lot of how the blogosphere is. A lot of people don't like to link back to the original, but I don't.
True.
This is the problem I have with that is it sounds so great. It sounds like something I'd want, and it doesn't make sense for Surface because Surface, there's no reason they couldn't expand out. But I mean, if they just made a laptop, which is something you and I have talked about for a while, how neat that would be. There are already a lot of good laptops, and they just got over the whole problem with PC makers from doing Surface, and we're all buddies again. And I think if they came out with a laptop, that would burn some people again.
Yeah,
it just seems implausible.
I know. If they do a 14-inch Surface, you got to think about the balancing of the weight, right? Like how? Yeah. Like it would be heavier. Where would the battery be? Where would what kind of a keyboard would it be to offset the weight?
Right.
Even with a kickstand, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, so we'll see. I certainly love Surface Pro 3. The only issue I have, because I'm a big guy, I would love to have a
little bigger,
slightly just like an inch bigger.
How big is it exactly now? 10.9?
12.5 or
12.5. Okay.
12.5.
So it's not small. It's It's almost as big as an iPad Pro.
It's a little under a 13. I prefer 14 or even a 15-inch Ultrabook if I can get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Daniel Rubino has a source that hinted at a 14-inch, according to Max Fly in our chat room.
Yeah, but that didn't originate there. That's the thing. It predates Windows Central. Right. I don't know.
We'll find out. Hopefully we'll get some more tips. I mean, all the tips I've been getting about Surface Pro 4 are saying very similar in form factor to the current device, except somewhat thinner, somewhat lighter, Skylake inside, a smaller bezel. I've never gotten a tip saying that a built-in camera for Hello will be part of it.
Yeah, right. It's kind of an assumption, that they'll do something like that.
Well, or maybe it's a reasonable assumption. I mean,
it is.
That's one of the few hardware requirements.
It would be
Windows 10.
Hugely disappointing if this thing didn't have at least a fingerprint reader for Windows Hello.
I think fingerprint reader.
Windows
I'm not
10
so sure about
has.
the camera.
No, right. No, I'm not either.
Right.
I don't know that anyone is. But I mean, if you think about like the unique features in Windows 10 that require special hardware, we're talking like about 3 things. And it needs to support all of them, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, to me, that is the point of Surface, to show customers and partners what's possible with Windows hardware.
Yeah.
If they come out with something that's just a subset of that, I mean, what's the point?
It's
I mean,
the reference
every PC
platform. It's not.
Right.
That's true.
This is
if I didn't want Windows Hello, I'd buy one of these many other choices. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So we'll see.
can you? By the way, I'm just curious. Are there third-party cameras? Is there a Logitech Hello camera?
Not yet. There is you can buy the Intel developer thing, which is a big deal.
And there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to do that. A USB camera could do Hello, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But there are Intel RealSense cameras in laptops today, right? So this thing's small enough; it can fit. There's some Dell devices that come with it.
Yeah. Oh, I look forward to seeing. It's always fun.
Yep.
I like these hardware announcement events because it gives us a chance to speculate for weeks.
Right.
And then,
And then kind of, tread water when everything we said was wrong.
And then you have a big event, and people love to
the
watch
source
these
I
live
have it hinted at
announcements.
this, said later that it just got pushed back to the next version.
And then
Sure.
for weeks afterwards, you can talk about what it all means.
Yep.
Yes.
So, as a tech journalist, there's
It's a
nothing
lot
better.
of angst, really. It's
It's meaningless drivel.
just navel gazing.
But it's what we love, because that's that's what we do. That's not. I don't mean we by we. I don't mean just us. I mean the people who listen. This is why you listen to shows like Windows Weekly. Obsessive canoodling on the.
Do you ever watch like House Hunters or House Hunters
I
International?
love that show.
And so the point of that, you watch the show and you guess. Like I'll sit there with Stephanie and we'll try to guess
what's the
which one
cost?
that they're going to buy.
Yeah, or which one they're gonna
the
buy.
one I choose is always the first one they get rid of. Always. And I feel like the show is sort of stacked against you because there's details you don't know about the other, about all the homes.
But they set it up
I
so
sort
that
of
you
think
will
that-
do that, right?
Yeah, but this is the thing. I feel like this stuff is like that because logically, you should, we can sit here and say, well, it's Microsoft, it's Surface. Clearly, this thing will support Windows Hello. It'll have a great audio for Cortana. It will have Continuum, which actually it will have to have Continuum. But they'll just ship it. It'll be like Surface Pro 3, but with slightly different, and it won't have any of that other stuff. It's like what? I mean, it makes no sense, that they would do that. But there's always that possibility.
What fun this all is. No, October 6th, we'll find out. That's not very long. Do they send out, they do like Apple doesn't send out cryptic invitations?
Yes.
We have a picture in the show notes.
Oh, let's see.
Well, actually, in one of the links there, you can see the invite.
Which
Doesn't
one?
give
In
you any
yours, do you have it?
clues. Yeah, I have the
Yeah,
invite.
so
in
click
my-
that top link, I guess. And
Here's what we know.
Yeah.
I just used one of my photos of the Empire State Building. For my,
Oh, this
That's
is good.
the actual invite.
We have some
but
exciting
actually, so
news to
there's
share.
I guess if you look in the metadata of the email, it lists some device names. Like
Oh, you're
not
kidding.
The actual, not
It
the
does.
models, but it says Surface,
No.
Lumia.
That's on purpose, right?
Of course.
It says band. Like some people have been
Band.
doubtful about band.
Oh.
It does say band.
Yep.
Well, that's kind of giving the whole story away, isn't it?
I don't know if that was intentional or not, but
And what are these ones and zeros at the bottom? Those must be significant.
I don't know. But
Oh, come
Probably
on.
the Windows 10. You know how Windows 10 shirt, they have all the ones and zeros
Yeah.
on it?
That's yeah. So they encoded a. Wasn't there a new Ninja Cat?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I bet
Picture.
you
Ninja
there's something
Cat.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, King
And then the
Kong in New
picture
York.
on the right,
That's the
that
post
building
office.
that's the post office
Yeah,
right there.
the old
Yep,
post office.
Yep.
So that's nice. It's across from Penn Station.
So that mess on the bottom is me arriving on the train.
You know what's nice? It's just down the road from the Yale Club. So I've always got to.
Oh, Yale
Paul,
man, eh?
Paul, I could probably get you in if you'd wear a tie.
I do have a top hat.
You know, if you wanted to stay there, Paul, I can probably get you a room at the Yale Club. I pay
Really?
I pay dues and I never use it.
What does that entail, though?
It's a hotel,
Really?
but it's a private hotel for Yale graduates and their friends.
Sure. And they're
You'd have to
patrons.
talk. You can't move your jaw.
right. Do I need to wear have a cigarette holder? And,
Hello, Lovey will be coming later.
in the limo.
Right.
I trained up early from the Hamptons. You could do that, right, Paul? We can count on you. Actually, I could get you a room if you want. And they're inexpensive.
Yeah?
Well,
how inexpensive?
A couple $100.
No, then definitely, if you can do that.
Cheap for New York. Let me call them
right
right
a
after.
room.
You would want it for the night of the October 6th?
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I remember, they're right across the street from Penn Station. They're right there.
Wow, that's incredible.
Wow.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, because the Microsoft hotel blocks were actually very expensive.
Are they really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they know that most of you will be staying at the Yale Club.
Yeah. We were all going to stay with Mary Jo, but apparently she has about 12
It's a little
square
limited here.
standing room only space.
Yeah.
Let me just call Muffy over at the Yale Club NYC just to see if I can. I've got a friend named Paulie Thurrott. Let me see where the location is here. We call it the club. The club. Yeah, see, it's right there. It's just down the street from the Harvard and Penn Club, but right next to the Cornell Club. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Grand Central, not Penn Station.
Grand Central. That's
It's
nowhere
still
near where I'm
close.
going.
Is that not close?
Close. It's still close.
Is it too much of a
it's
walk
still
for you, Paulie? Little Paulie?
That would be an
How
easy
close is it?
commute
Oh, I see.
as well.
Rattle and Hum's right here.
Yep. Exactly.
I'm rubbing Rattle and Hum with my hand. So, yeah,
I would
it's
definitely,
like
yeah,
you
if
could
it's
stay
cheap
there.
enough. Sure.
Well, let me find out. Let me see if I can get you a reservation. I've never done a third-party reservation at the club. They're on 50 Vanderbilt at the corner of 44.
Of course they are. Right.
Yeah, would have to be. I never stay there.
It's a private membership club.
Oh, yeah. You have to be a Yale alum.
Everyone is so. I'm not sure if I'm going to be dressed up enough for this place.
I think that's Mark Zuckerberg sitting on a ball. So apparently they have Harvard cross
Right.
membership. See the nice view. Yep. I don't know what that. See the nice salad.
Probably not going to be eating there. You know.
It's right near. So that place, Vanderbilt Ave, is right off of Grand Central, like
Yes.
literally right off.
You
of it.
you look out the window, you see Grand Central.
So
Station.
Paul could go to the Apple Store, which I'm sure he
in
Nice.
Grand Central.
Grand
That's a nice one.
Right, because right after that Microsoft event, I'm going to be inspired to maybe change my worldview a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Your new worldview.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Thurston. Let's take a break. And when we come back, I do want to know what you think of the Apple event.
Okay.
I think you and I have diametrically opposed points of view.
Oh, I don't know.
Probably not. Usually we agree almost exactly, but we'll see. We shall find. We'll find out. But first, a word from my Igloo. Yes, Igloo. I love Igloo. Anybody that's ever worked in a business, a large business, knows about the intranet, right? You've used your intranet, and you know how usually lousy they are. It still baffles me, but there are many corporate intranets that require IE6, right? Isn't that kind of what's keeping
Just
IE6
throw up my mouth a little bit there.
alive? Okay, I could tell you something. I got something that is modern, HTML5, a cloud portal that'll let you do everything. I mean, it's not just like a bulletin board. You could share files, collaborate on documents. Of course, they've got blogs for all of the people that need to give information out to the company. You can coordinate calendars through it, manage projects. Projects is kind of like it gives you many of the capabilities of SharePoint, not just a corporate intranet. Everything is social, too. You can comment, like buttons anywhere you want. Anyone can add content. Of course, this is all up to the people who configure it, but I'm just saying it's got that capability. Go to Igloo, IGLOO software.com/twit. And you can take a look at, let me just type this in here so I can show you the site. igloosoftware.com/twit. Variety of access, authentication, and identity services so that, not only do you control who posts and what people do, but who can get in from the outside world. It's very secure. Starts as low as $3 a user a month, but there's even better volume pricing. And unlike other solutions, you get full access to Igloo's suite of tools for one price. 256-bit encryption, SSL, all of that. And well, I'll tell you, if you're worried about security, it's used by government agencies, companies like Hulu, Inventive Health, American Family Insurance, Ipswich. I mean, this is a very serious stuff. And by the way, of course, their mobile is phenomenal. So here's your deal. You could try it for free right now for up to 10 people. Not for 1 month, not for 1 year, forever. 10 people, forever. igloosoftware.com/twit. Dude, give it a try. If you want a better intranet, some of the best companies use it, and you could try it free forever for up to 10 users. igloosoftware.com/twit, an intranet you'll actually like. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley, we're talking Windows, but just briefly, because people, what are you laughing? What are you laughing?
Just briefly.
Just briefly. People get mad at us because when Apple does an event, we spend a lot of time on it. Well, that's the news. We'll spend time on Microsoft's event as well. It's just, when you're in technology, you cover the story. And Apple has, everybody, you got to admit it, has a very compelling and interesting story.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wrote about each of the...
and a bit of market share, that's right.
Yeah.
Which is a big change. I'm an older Apple user. I've been doing it since '84. Actually, before then, of course. But I got my first Mac in the first few days, first 100 days. And so I like the underdog Apple. The Apple that's struggling with tiny market share against the behemoth.
Leo, let me let you in on something. I like that Apple, too. Screw those days.
In fact, I'm on record many years ago when I was doing the radio show, before Microsoft even got challenged by the Department of Justice in the late 90s, in the mid to early 90s, I always said, because people say, oh, Microsoft, they're so evil, the evil empire, and Apple's so good. And I said, just, if Apple ever had the market share Microsoft had, you would hate them.
Right.
I didn't think that would ever happen, however.
Well, I mean, obviously, the big thing that's just Steve Jobs has passed away, and it's fair to say that the new CEO is a slightly different human being. So
much nicer. Much nicer.
Yeah, I think things have improved.
And in fact, lo and behold, Microsoft's on the stage.
Yeah, so Mary, I don't know, Mary Jo, we didn't really talk about this, I don't think, but.
No, we were
although I guess of course we were there watching it live.
Yeah.
I found that to be an awkward moment. And even for someone like me who can kind of try to explain to people that this is the way the world is and this mobile first, cloud first, and, blah, blah, blah. And then it happens and you're like, ugh. It was slightly deflating, wasn't it?
No, for me, it wasn't. No. For me, this was like the best paid advertisement Microsoft could have had.
Wow. All right.
You know why? Because what's the division of Microsoft that's making most of the money now? Office.
Office, yeah.
So if you're Microsoft and you want to say your Office products are everywhere and that every company needs them to be credible with businesses, how great is it that you're on stage at Apple's event? They need you. They need you to make this legitimate for businesses.
That's interesting.
That's how I felt about it. I was like, wow, Microsoft, I wonder how much they paid to be there. That was my first thought.
Well, the other thing that was very interesting was for years, Apple has only allowed you to watch Apple streams on Apple devices, Safari, iOS. And they have the same boilerplate text underneath the live stream stuff. And they added, and Microsoft's Windows 10 Edge. Yeah. So I think even then, that was before the event, there was a sign that Microsoft was no longer persona non grata. In fact, Apple, I think, is grateful that Microsoft, that Satya Nadella, made the touch-first versions of Windows.
I love Office. You and your positive outlooks.
It has. Apple should be thrilled,
good.
Especially for the iPad Pro. It makes perfect sense. You've got a full touch-first Office for the iPad Pro.
It is fair to say that when the second iPad came out in 2011, one of the complaints that Steve Jobs was responding to was that the iPad wasn't good for content creation. It was just a toy. It was just a
people yell at me because I always said it's a consumption device, not just a toy, but just it
so obviously is a consumption device. But whatever. Anyway, this was bothered by him. In fact, in his official biography, it says he was bothered by this because it was true. But he didn't go to Microsoft, and Microsoft probably didn't reach out to him either to solve this problem. Apple created their own applications for iPad,
Pages,
iWork,
numbers,
iPages, and all that stuff. Just to kind of show, like, look, it could be the thing. So those apps are fine. Obviously, the Office apps are more impressive, and they're they're good apps on iPad. And they'll probably be pretty good on really good on iPad Pro, which of course is a scary proposition for anyone who cares about Surface, because it's impossible to look at that device and see anything other than a Surface or maybe a Lumia 2520, if you even know what such a thing is. It looks like a Windows device, except it's really thin and light.
Your challenge as Microsoft is make people understand why it's better on Windows, which so far they have been not doing as well as they need to. But I think that's their challenge now. It's like, hey, we're here on the Apple device, and if you're running that device, great, and we're happy to have you as a customer. But if you really want blah, blah, and blah, get it on Windows. But that's the blah, blah, and blah we're missing. We're missing the blahs.
Well, but Nadella always said the best experience will always be on Windows.
It should be, right? That was always the value proposition.
He finally said that. It took him a long time to get to that.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah. After really navel gazing about this particular topic for a couple of days, I was reminded of something. In fact, you can see it on, actually, I happen to have these devices here just because of stuff that's been going on. So if you look at like a Surface 2, it says Surface on the back.
Yeah.
Surface Pro 3, I believe, has a Windows flag. I can't reach it from here. But a Surface 3 has not a Windows flag. That's a Microsoft logo. And I think that's the point. It's not about some particular brand or product inside of Microsoft that's really important. Office in this case is the one getting the props, but it's what's the best thing for Microsoft. I guess Microsoft could just ignore the iPad, but then what they're also ignoring is a generation of people coming up, getting those devices and not using Microsoft software. And then they get into the workplace and they don't care or want Microsoft software. And that's when things really go south for the company. So, it's hard. It's hard for some. This podcast is called Windows Weekly. I suspect Mary Jo and many others sort of commingle Windows and Microsoft, like they're the same thing almost. Yeah. It's hard to get out of that mindset. I can sort of advise other people to do that, but of course, giving advice is a lot easier than taking it. And yeah, I mean, I love Surface, and so when I see something like this device, it's hard not to be like, seriously, it's a freaking Surface ripoff. And there's Microsoft helping them promote it. It is a weird moment. So I'm going to cry for a little while, and you guys can just continue without me.
Come on. Just think of Microsoft as being a bigger thing than Windows, which it is.
The problem is I'm not a bigger thing.
Okay.
Takes a big man to admit when he's wrong. I'm not a big man. No,
yeah. I really do think they were probably really happy about being on the stage. I don't think they saw it as a moment of defeat. I didn't even think of it that way. I was like, wow, Microsoft, you were needed by Apple to make this look like a legitimate business device. That's how I felt about it when I saw it. I wasn't feeling sad or like, I don't think I'm making lemonade out of lemons. I think I really do.
I wonder who had the epiphany though. I've always thought that Microsoft was needed to make any iPad a legitimate business device. Yeah. The trick is getting Apple to agree with that and put you on stage, I suppose. So I think iPad Pro is a bit of a leap for their customer base even to accept. They are very compliant usually. And maybe that's the type of thing that puts it over the top. They had Adobe, I think, up there. And I started nodding off during those demos. But, they had other, I don't know what else they had.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, even, using PowerPoint with the iPad Pro is not like going to world-shattering experience.
No.
I'm surprised you say it's about Microsoft. I feel like it's about, I feel like Apple must have kissed their butts a little bit, like putting the Edge browser.
Really? You think that, oh, okay. Do you think that was a little olive branch of sorts?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Edge browser thing wasn't because of Apple, right? It was because Microsoft finally added a protocol.
No, I've
to-
heard that.
No,
HLS
no,
is
but-
supported by Chrome. You can't tell me that
Yeah.
Edge does something Chrome doesn't do.
Yeah, that seems unbelievable
Oh, really?
to me.
Huh. I thought it was only
people
Edge
were saying
and-
that, and I don't. I find
That's
I
not
have
true.
yet to see. Well, I'm not saying it's not true. I guess it could be true,
Yeah.
but
By the way,
That's
here's
what
the
I-
thing. Who cares
I
if it's
thought it-
true? They still put it on Edge. I mean,
well, that's the
Yeah.
question. If so if
you know-
Microsoft did something to put it in Edge, and Apple's the only company in the world that apparently that uses it because you can stream video on
and they
Chrome,
still thought to put it on Edge.
and they put it on Edge, then maybe it is Microsoft putting it extending an olive branch. Isn't it in their mutual benefit? It's certainly to Apple's benefit to have productivity apps on the iPad Pro.
Well, I think that's the point. And oddly enough, it was Steve Jobs who kind of said it best, to reverse the phrase, which is, Microsoft doesn't need to fail for Apple to succeed.
Right.
And the reverse is also true.
Is Office on the Mac still a big business? For
Yeah,
Microsoft?
supposedly. And the new
It is a
version's
still big
fantastic.
business.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I actually think Office has been garbage on the Mac for a long time. The new version looks very, very good to me.
Well, it's
Yeah.
not. It wasn't very Mac-ish. Even down under the hood, it wasn't
Yeah.
very Mac-ish. It might be. I haven't tried it yet. So, is it out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's
Oh.
been out.
It came out
for the past
before
month.
Office 2016 for Windows.
Okay, I rest my case.
Yep.
Somebody likes somebody.
And Leo, let me tell you, no one is burned by that little decision at all.
No.
Yeah. We're really sensitive in the Windows world these days.
Well, look, it's a different world, and
It is.
and I don't think Nadella is saying Mac is better than Windows. That's not
No.
what they're saying.
No,
No.
Nobody would say that.
no.
No, but it's always probably going to be fair. Certainly, it's fair to say today that the best experience, the most full-featured experience, whatever you're going to have in Office, you have on the Windows desktop. There's no doubt about that. That's not the issue. The problem is what's available on the Mac enough? Is what's available on the iPad enough? And when it is enough, and by the way, it probably is enough for most people, that means less reason for people to keep going with Windows. So we've already hit this time period where people are buying fewer computers. They're using the same computer over a long period of time. A year from now, 18 months from now, 2 years from now, whatever, they might say, well, I don't really need the computer anymore. I've seen this with my own kids. I can get work done on an iPad. I can get work done on a Chromebook. I can get work done on Mac, I guess, obviously. I mean, that would always be the case. But, I think this is the new reality we have to face. And again, for people who commingle Microsoft with Windows, like I kind of still do, I mean, these decisions, I can step through it logically, but there is still kind of an emotional element to it. It's like it kind of grinds you the wrong way. Not Mary Jo.
You know why I think it's different for me? I'm thinking about this. I think it's because I cover the enterprise, and so I cover a lot of things that are not Windows.
Right.
Also,
Right.
Like I cover things like Power BI and Hadoop and stuff that is definitely not Windows. And so for me, I've always kind of thought of Microsoft as a lot more than Windows. I mean, I think it's really fun covering Windows, and it's kind of like what people think of when they think of you as a Microsoft reporter, like that you know about Windows. But for me, Microsoft is and has been a lot more than Windows.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think
Office
that's
has been a big deal.
Yeah.
OneDrive works great
Right.
on a Mac.
Yeah.
Probably works better than on a PC.
Probably works better than iCloud. Right?
Yeah. Sure. Well, what doesn't work?
Don't users? I mean, I know there's fanboys, but don't users want to use best in class regardless of who makes it? And if
I don't know.
there's nothing
You know-
wrong with if you think
I don't
OneDrive
think
works
so.
better than iCloud and you're using a Mac, there's nothing wrong with using
It's
OneDrive.
no, Leo. We've talked about this kind of thing a little bit before. People tend to use what's there, and this is still true in mobile. When back in the day when Microsoft would put MSN on the Windows 95 desktop or IE inside Windows, there's a reason IE had so much market share, still does. It's not because it was such an excellent browser, although at a time it was a very good browser, or for a time. It's because, that kind of placement really does give you an advantage. You look to bring it to the Apple stuff, because what the hell, we're a Windows show. When Apple puts a new and improved Notes application in iOS 9, or the new News application, right? Which is very similar to a news application that Google makes for Android, which is very similar to the news application that Microsoft makes cross-platform MSN News. There's a reason. they're trying to keep people in the, in the ecosystem. They want you there.
Yeah.
And, Apple has a very aggressive way of cutting out other companies that are their partners when they do that kind of stuff. But it's all about the bottom line. They've always been very aggressive about this thing that we're talking about with regards to Microsoft. Microsoft they're getting there. And Satya Nadella, I think, has done a good job of pushing Microsoft in that direction. But it's still, it's hard because we've never done things this way before on the Microsoft side.
Does some of this rankle because you feel like the iPad Pro is just a Surface?
Well, I mean, the iPad Pro is the makings of a Surface. I mean, again, another long-time theme, the notion of Apple coming up from the bottom and Microsoft pushing down from the top, which is the right strategy. I don't think the iPad Pro 1.0 is a good Surface replacement, but iPad Pro 2.0,
yeah,
3.0, whatever. I mean, they're going to get it. I mean, they are going to get it.
I'm excited about it, and I don't think it's comparable because I think it's touch first, and I think that means it's a very different
you know what, though?
thing.
Yeah, except for one thing. When that thing takes off the way it could, this spells the beginning of the end of the Mac as a mainstream computing platform.
I do fear that. I do fear
it has to. It has to. And again, it's not going to happen this December. It might, there could be false steps and whatever, but they have they have these platforms. It's the opposite of Microsoft. They have mobile platforms that are tremendously accessible, hundreds and thousands and millions of apps, whatever it is. And then they have this desktop platform that has 17 apps. And if you flip that, that's Microsoft. Microsoft has, 16 million Win32 apps. I think was the figure, right? Is that the figure?
I remember that figure, but yeah.
16 million, I think so. Lot, let's say millions, whatever it is.
Yes, millions.
And they have about 17 mobile apps that are any good, if that many. And so you play to your strengths. There's a reason Microsoft's pushing forward with the PC. It's the only thing that seems to work for them for their own homegrown platforms right now. And Apple is pushing with iOS, not because the Mac is not successful, but because iOS is successful on a whole nother level entirely. Yeah. Apple Watch relies on iPhone. You know,
well,
it's exactly what Microsoft would have done in the past. You bolster the thing that does
build
everything
the ecosystem.
For you.
Yeah.
Yep. They just succeed in different places.
In that case, I like it because what I would love to see is a war between warring philosophies. And see which one prevails, because I like Microsoft's philosophy much better than and I'm not going to ascribe that philosophy to Apple, but I think you're probably right that Apple would just
what's the philosophy though? The
notion Microsoft is we'll be wherever our customers are versus Apple our customers will be wherever we want them to be.
It sounds great until you realize they were forced into it, because their customers, everywhere they were used to just be Windows. It was super easy.
Right. Well, that's why Apple, from day one on OS X, supported the Windows file system. You want to read a fat file system? You just plug it in.
Yep.
Because Apple had to. Because if you didn't work with the Windows file system, you were living in the wilderness. Now it's a little bit the shoes on the other foot, but that's...
Leo, I don't like the other foot.
I don't either.
I like the first foot.
No, I like the other foot. I'm a right footer because I think I'm a believer in open. I think you choose the best tool for the job, and I don't care if it comes from Black or Decker or Steel. You just use the best tool for the job.
I think the thing about Nadella, he's a pragmatist, right? He is saying, hey, if this thing takes off, and it probably is going to because iOS has such a huge market share already, and it's Apple, I want to be there in some way. How can I be there? I can be there by having apps on the platform. The other way I can be there is by managing the platform. So you're going to see him do all these kind of things with,
I bet you're right.
Mobile device management, enterprise mobility suite. He's like, hey, I got to do this because I need to be there. If they win, or even if they're a huge competitor or contender, I want to be there in some way instead of just saying, oh yeah, haha, like Ballmer did about the iPhone.
We got too much of that. Paul, you're always ripping on Google for not supporting Windows Phone properly. We have too much of this, siloing.
Yep.
That's true.
We don't need a silo. As users, it's not in our interest. I understand it's in business's interest, but it's not in our interest. Open, non-proprietary solutions are, that's what consumers need. Thank you, Richard Stallman.
Oh, good Lord.
Everybody should be using GNU Linux and just leave it at that.
Yikes.
Yeah. Now, that really went south fast.
It did. Whenever I hear Richard Stallman, I just have a picture that pops into my mind, and it makes me say, "Yikes!"
We had him on. I don't want to ask you about that picture. Is he clothed?
Yeah. Partially.
Well, it's like you can tweet about Linux or Stallman on Twitter, and there's like an auto reply bot that it makes it look like it came from Richard Stallman.
Oh, is that true?
That's so beautiful.
If you tweet RMS,
Is it really?
Yeah, something like that. It will just tweet you back and give you the word.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Something about
I love
GNU.
We had him on the old screensavers, and I convinced him. He played the recorder. He was barefoot, and I convinced him to sing apparently there's some sort of Unix anthem.
Oh God, I was gonna say, please let it be a Unix manifesto.
It was.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I should find the recording. It was awesome.
Sung to the
Have him
tune of
back
Peter,
on.
Paul, and Mary's.
It was hard to get him on because he insisted that for that entire day, Tech TV had to refer to Linux as GNU Linux.
Yeah.
Right.
He won't let you just call it Linux.
Yeah, that's part of it. In fact, I think that's what you do.
understand.
You write about Linux on Twitter, and it says, actually, that's called GNU Linux, and it
Linux.
kind of
Yeah, there you go.
it corrects you. Yeah.
GNU Linux. And a lot of credit to Richard Stallman, one of the early MIT hackers. He wrote Emacs. He created the GNU Foundation for free software. And the GPL is the license that many folks use to this day for open source software. And without GNU, there really wouldn't be a Linux because Linux is just a kernel. GNU is most of the applications you use on top of it. So,
Sure.
thank you. That's for you, Richard.
Get him
Anything
back
else?
on.
Actually, if you could get a subject that would even be more anathema to Windows Weekly than Macintosh,
Yeah.
Right.
Linux.
it
Right.
would be GNU Linux.
Oh, man.
I think we all miss the days of the Halloween memos.
That was fun.
You know, and Microsoft. Not the very first. One of the very first stories I wrote about, I wrote for Windows IT Pro when I came on board in 2000 or 1999, was about Microsoft porting Office to Linux. And they had actually it was Mainsoft was the company doing the port, and they were doing it in Israel. And it was one of those things like, if this takes off, we have to be ready. And, you know, they never released it. But, you know, I remember posting this story and telling my wife, you know, if you see one of those red laser lights come into the window, just duck, because I feel like Microsoft's going to, you know, the phone's going to ring any second now. You know,
Yep.
it never happened though.
That was awesome. The good old days.
Yep.
The good old days. Those were. I'm waiting for a email from the Yale Club. I had to ask permission.
Thank you.
They say in order to get Mr. Thurrott
Is he-
into the Yale Club, we need to ask.
Is
you
he
a
at
few
least
questions.
an Ivy School graduate?
Okay, just between
Is he
you
going
and
to
me.
play the recorder and wear shoes or
They
not?
said I have to pay for your room, and we have to meet. We're there. You're there for purposes of meeting with me.
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
all right. I'm gonna
Oh yeah,
be right out there.
we are going to meet. We're going to meet virtually on Skype.
Yeah.
That's true.
Shh. What is this Skype of which you speak?
Right.
I don't understand.
Alien technology, Leo.
Anyway, so I've asked
Yeah.
permission. Apparently, you can't get the room rates until you ask permission.
Wow.
Yes, I noticed on their website there were no rates
No.
to be seen.
In fact, you can't even reserve on the site. You have to send
I
them
am,
a
of
note.
course, going to sign up for the yoga class. I just want
But
to be
if
clear.
I can get it for you under $300, would you want it?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, I'll get it for you. I mean, if I can, if they give you permission.
I just what I'm eagerly anticipating is arriving in New York, not being allowed in, and then having to figure out a hotel.
I'm sorry,
that
Mr.
day.
Thurrott. I've only, I've had a membership for years. I've only stayed there once, and it's interesting. I think you'll like it, Paul. At least
Nice.
there's plenty of room
Yep.
to use the toilet.
I'm just looking forward to the $127 breakfast.
Yeah.
Now they don't. No, it's actually a very affordable way to stay in New York. But actually, where did we stay? It wasn't horrible. Oh yeah, it was. Never mind. It was horrible. But there were very few rooms. I guess it was Fashion Week in New York, so it was all booked up. All
my
booked
God.
up.
Yeah.
Does the Richard Stallman picture you have involve cockatiels?
Jeez.
It does not.
Okay, 'cause
That's subculture on the internet of
'Cause,
horrifying. Oh, God.
I thought it might be that one, but
No, it was not.
you know what? I love him. He's exactly what makes computing interesting.
It's true.
I give him credit for sticking to his guns.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Have we done everything we need to say about the Apple event? Can we move on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk briefly about the new iPad Mini.
No, it's not. Paul, though, I think you had good things to say about the iPhone. I seem to remember you tweeting or something.
Yeah, I'm getting an iPhone. That looks good.
Are you getting the pink one?
I think Apple TV is a big deal. And by the way, why doesn't Microsoft have an Apple TV of its own? That drives me crazy.
They do. It's called the Xbox One.
That's, come on.
Not
That's
really.
$400 console with a huge fan in it the size of a Volkswagen is a replacement for a $79 stick or whatever that you put it under your TV. That's not the same.
They could kind of do something stripped down with the Xbox One and make it $150.
They need a something, or either that, or my hope is that because Apple's opening up Apple TV, that they put the Groove app on there.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool?
There's no reason they couldn't. And if they're all in on Apple, like, why wouldn't they do that?
Can you get Groove for iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Apple's already approved it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. That's what I'm
that's
excited about. I think if the App Store is rich and full of great applications, including, by the way, somebody's running a Twit app, that will make it much more compelling to me.
But, Microsoft could have gone on to Roku and never has. Microsoft could have gone up to Amazon and hasn't. These are missed opportunities. So if they don't have their own first-party device, they need to be everywhere. I mean, that's what we've just been talking about.
Right.
They're so open and everything, but they're really not open in the living room. Right now, they're just Xbox and Miracast. If you want to really stretch the definition of this as far as it can stretch.
Yeah, Edbot kept saying Miracast during Twit on Sunday, and I had to kind of just
Miracast. That's something someone says if they've never used it.
No, he swears he uses it all the time.
I do too. It's awful. The Microsoft one is the best one that there is, but it's really not good. Yeah. And I have the same experience every summer. We go to Europe and we try to watch our shows on someone else's TV. And I've tried every summer. I bring different stuff. I try different stuff. And the best solution every single time is called an HDMI cable. It works perfectly every single time.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that does.
But it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, every single time.
You just connect it right up.
It works.
Have you? What about Intel's wireless display? Do you ever use that?
It's the same. It's the same hardware.
It's basically Miracast, isn't it?
It's Miracast, yeah.
It's basically DLNA. Or is it like an
It isn't because it isn't. And Microsoft is actually extending Miracast, and you can see some of that work in Surface Hub where it's turning into a bidirectional thing, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. But Miracast is just the simplest way to say it is it's a dumb cable done without cables. It's a wireless cable. It literally is just as dumb as a cable.
Right.
There's no in the actual spec. I mean, Microsoft is building off of it, but like any wireless technology, I mean,
I have to say I'm very happy with the
Chrome. Put hairspray in front of the TV and it doesn't work.
I'm very happy with the Chromecast, but that's not quite the same because what you do is you essentially are giving instructions.
It's a handoff
to a device that's plugged in your TV, and it does all the work.
Yep.
But it works.
It does work, unless you take it internationally.
What happens?
There's no way to change the DHCP settings on the Chromecast unless they've changed it. And that means that you can't make it work with content from the United States as you can internationally. So Chromecast has failed for me internationally.
With content that's regionally restricted.
Yeah. Netflix, the big change this year was that Netflix works internationally because Netflix is international.
Right.
The joke there is that it's only international content and the captioning is international. So for like someone like my son who needs English captioning, that actually doesn't work.
Learn French.
But the situation's improving. That's the beautiful thing. I mean, every year it gets a little bit better. Yeah. But by the way, every year, HDMI cable.
HDMI cable and your own content from your own device.
Yep.
Thank you
Works
very much.
every time.
Works every time. Windows 10, 10.5.3.7 is leaking.
It's all over the place.
Anything to say?
Not mine. I don't want to talk about this. So it's not out publicly. I have installed this on my computer because I'm a goon, and now nothing works. And sometime this week when I have time, which I never will, I will have to reinstall Windows.
You have to roll
again.
back. So don't, kids.
So don't do it. And what's different, if we right-click the desktop, that menu that pops up is slightly grayer than it was in the previous build. It's literally the only thing I've seen. So this is the level of excitement I bring to the podcast.
I hosed my machine, and all I got was a gray contextual menu.
Slightly gray. It's actually very subtly gray. It's not very gray.
But if you're on the fast ring, are we still at 10.525? Is that?
I think it's 10.532.
Oh, I should.
Is that right?
Every Wednesday, I fire up the old laptop to see what's new.
I have the. I mean, I have the.
Yeah.
You know, I don't.
I know it's hard to remember all these numbers, especially because mobile's not on the same build number as the PC now.
That's really confusing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't even get into my Lumia 1520 now. I don't even know what's. I can't. It's like there's a box over where I'm supposed to log in. It's like it's all messed up. All messed up. There's no rollback, is there? You have to connect it to a machine and roll it back.
Oh, actually, there is a rollback. You mean for build? So
For mobile.
look at that. For mobile? No, you're screwed.
That's what I meant.
sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, the latest release shows a media center skew, says Elmo P.O.
No.
That's a lie. Don't tease us like that. Does it? No.
You're a lying liar who lies.
No, you know, there was something, I forget which site had this, where there was a way you could bring Media Center back onto your PC. But it's not recommended to do this, is it?
No, it's from 2009.
No. People don't do this. Don't do this.
Do it to yourself.
But yeah, it's not from Microsoft, that Media Center thing.
Right.
Windows 10's biggest problem. Now, okay, I got a really hateful email. My first ever.
Join the club.
I thought you were going to show it to us, like turning the laptop around. It's from this guy.
It's from this guy. Oh, he was angry because he said I heard you say he says, you're not on the radio show, I'm the tech guy, right? He says, you're not the tech guy. You're some tech guy. You're an A tech guy. He said, on the radio show, I heard you say, get Windows 10. And now I can't use Skype. My machine sucks. And I said, but I like Windows 10.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He was mad that I said it's okay. It's safe to go ahead and upgrade.
Yep. Usually I'm the person who gets those emails, Leo, which is why my life has been kind of a shitstorm for the past 2 months.
Is it not okay?
No, it's fine. But, you know, this is always the problem. You take something that was in beta, even with 5 or 7 million people testing it, goes out into the world, and then you get all those crazy PC configurations. I just off the top of my head, like someone wrote me yesterday, I think, and said, I have several XP mode VHDs in Windows 7 that I rely on. I assume that I can bring these forward to Windows 10 and that they will just work in Hyper-V or whatever. And now this kind of stresses my brain a little bit because I haven't thought about XP mode for a while, right? Because we moved away from XP mode with Windows 8 first 3 years ago. So XP mode, like, what do I have in the back of my head about XP mode? And the thing I have in the back of my head is those don't work in Hyper-V. That's what I have. And I haven't actually researched this, but that's one example of a million of just like things that people just do. They rely on it. It's perfectly reasonable. And this stuff has just moved on in the interim. You know, like Media Center is another example. People who do rely on that stuff. I mean, it's a little bit of a shock to them. And so, of course, they'll come to someone like me who recommends Windows 10, or you, or Mary Jo, I guess, if she has. But you said,
right?
You know,
I get that a lot.
And now it's your problem.
Yeah,
you know?
But you told me it was okay. You told me it wouldn't be any problems. Hey, is Threshold 2 delayed a month?
So Microsoft's never said when it would come out.
So you can't delay something that doesn't have a ship date.
So we had gotten tips. We got tips earlier this year. It was supposed to be October, and now I've been seeing people reporting November. So I don't know. It might be delayed by.
I've not heard November, but we might find out October 6th. You know, Microsoft is planning the first big update to Windows 10. It's the one that will go out to all those guys on RTM build. It will be shipped on whatever day. You know, and maybe it is in November. But
you can't be late if you never said it will be out.
It's hard to say, yeah.
But we are thinking November probably at this point.
Probably. I bet probably.
Maybe, I mean, we've sort of speculated Surface Pro 4 would have this software, right?
Oh.
You know, so when we originally started getting tips about how they were going to roll out Threshold, the tips were there'd be a build out in summer, which was Threshold 1, and then there'd be a build out in fall. So fall can be a fairly big window, right?
Could be next March if you're in Argentina.
Is Windows 10 as it stands today? I haven't had a huge amount of problems, but I don't use it all day in, day out, obviously. So,
it's like any other relationship, Leo. Over time, the bloom comes off the rose a little bit, and you realize what you've gotten into. And I think the big news on Windows 10 is that it's very, very good. But we have both recently highlighted some issues that we have.
Well, who would like to start with the issues?
I wouldn't mind starting.
All right, Mary Jo.
So when I first installed Windows 10 for the very first time, which was the week of July 29th, it was
a day
working
that will
great.
live in infamy.
It was working great on my Acer S7. I wasn't having any problems with it. And in the past month or so, I've started having issues. And here's the concerning part to me. And this is why I wrote a post this week saying stability for me is a big question mark with Windows 10. I'm not doing anything to my PC except applying the updates that Microsoft is making me apply as they're pushing them to me. And things are breaking. Right? First.
Well, I think I see your problem.
Yeah, my mail broke, and I didn't have mail for a week, I don't think, which, at that point, it wasn't a problem because I wasn't really using the built-in mail client because Microsoft forced you to use conversation views, and I didn't want that. More recently, mail broke for me again. It just stopped syncing for a number of days, and then Microsoft pushed an update for the mail app, which I thought, oh, great, this is going to fix it. Instead, it broke it even more, and I couldn't add back any of my mail accounts. So I couldn't use the mail app at all. And at this point, I really wanted to use the mail app because they had added the option to disable conversation view. Then the store went down and I couldn't get any app updates from the store. So I had to wait for them to push an update that fixed that. So my point is, even if you like Windows 10, which I do, and it seems like everything's working, every day now when I start my Windows 10 machine, I'm like, I wonder what they did today, and is my machine going to keep working?
That's not good. You don't want that.
That's not good.
You don't want uncertainty.
No.
If it's going to break, it should just break.
Right. The uncertainty part is what's driving me crazy now.
Yeah.
It's not any feature in the operating system. It's just, I feel like it's something that keeps changing at a regular pace, and that's problematic for me because I get everything set the way I want, and then this past weekend, I actually had to do a reset on my computer to get the mail to work at all. And, a reset's great. It kind of gets things back to where they were, but you have to reinstall all the apps that it takes off. It took me about 2.5 hours, basically, to reset my machine.
That's frustrating.
Can't keep doing that.
No.
Right.
So that's my tale of woe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, what do you hate about Windows 10?
Actually, so I'm speaking about Windows 10 tonight at a local user group, and I sort of framed it as kind of Windows 10, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I have to say, the interesting thing about it is a lot of stuff is good. There's some stuff that's bad, and there's just a couple of things that are ugly. And one of the things that are ugly is, unfortunately, the store and the whole app thing. I do think that their app model, the universal app thing, is an important step forward. That it's done well and they have their eye on the future and all that kind of stuff. But fundamentally, they've not solved the problem they've had since Windows Phone, but let's just say since Windows 8, which is that the Windows Store is devoid of content that is meaningful to anybody. And I don't understand how they fix it. I suspect that there are more and better apps available in the Chrome Web App Store than there are in the Windows Store. It's kind of embarrassing. And, talked a couple of years ago or a year ago, whatever it was, about the big problem on Windows being that there is no new application development occurring, and on the desktop or otherwise, and that the biggest apps on Windows are these platforms like iTunes and Chrome that take people away from Windows. And I just don't know how you solve this. I don't think I've found a single app, like a universal app, that is what I would call gotta have it, must install, the very first thing I do. Because I do have a list of things that I do, obviously, when I install Windows, and none of them include going and finding some app that Microsoft has in their store. There just aren't any. And that's a problem. It's a problem for the platform. Oh, and it's not really stable either. It has.
and it crashes a lot. It doesn't crash.
No, I don't have crashing problems. I do. Yeah, Mary Jo's right. I mean, if you're going to force people to accept updates, there needs to be a process that explains
what are you getting,
that these things will always be right, and this is how you fix them if they're not. And it doesn't happen.
If you know what, if I could have uninstalled Mail and reinstalled it instead of resetting my computer, that would have been better.
Sure.
But you can't uninstall Mail.
Right.
It's built into the platform. Same as Store, right? You can't uninstall Store, I don't think.
And we should be clear, Mary Jo is using the release version. It's Paul's on
RTM, right.
Yeah, Paul's on the fast.
I'm using a version I got from a Russian wares site.
Actually, you are. Come to think of it. Okay.
And I don't understand why it's not stable.
It's not stable. But I do like the color of gray.
Right. I mean, I've seen a lot of people have been trying to discredit my post because they're saying, well, you know, it's because you didn't do a clean install. Well, Microsoft's guidance is you don't have to do a clean install.
You're using it as a normal user.
I am. Right. And I never had beta on that machine. Some people are like, oh, it's because of all the beta cruft on your machine. I'm like, I never ran the beta. Right.
I think I've clean installed Windows about 1,700 times this year.
Have you really? Oh.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of beta. I mean, I do obviously do some of that, but I wipe PCs at will. I mean, I do this all the time. I do it with my mind. I'm wiping a Surface Pro 3 in my head right now.
You dream of this. I know.
It really is kind of a nightmare.
Sit back. We're just going to be a few moments. We'll be with you.
What are you doing over there? You're twitching in the like a dog dreaming about chasing a rabbit. I'm restoring Surface 3 with the downloadable image. I don't know.
I had no idea there was so much pain and suffering out there. Now I feel bad that I recommended Windows 10, but I just tell people Paul Thurrott said it was
seriously.
okay.
There really is so much great about it, and we've talked about some of the stuff. The sheer success rate of upgrades for all the problems is astonishing.
It is.
We're probably hitting somewhere around, I'm sure they'll announce 100 million plus on October 6th. I'm sure they've already hit 100 million. People have successfully updated this operating system. It's amazing. There are some good apps built in. I do actually use some of the built-in apps quite a bit. There's some good ones. I like the desktop focus of it. I love the return of the PC. I think the Continuum stuff is fantastic. Windows Hello is great. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But Microsoft, if you want to sum up this company in a nutshell, it's, they have a hard time finishing the job. They're really good at the broad strokes, but when it comes down to getting the little details right, which by the way is, I think, an area where Apple actually does a great job, despite Virtua doing less, Microsoft, that's where they kind of fail. They always drop the ball,
The other part, and I put this in my post too, is something I don't think people fully realize sometimes is how many different configurations they're running and people are running Windows on. It's like two people can have the exact same machine, but you can have a different BIOS on it and you have a totally different experience.
Right.
Or you can have one small thing that's different in your machine than someone else who's having absolutely no problem. So it's hard to pinpoint what's making the problem happen, right? Because of how many different models and makes and vendors and drivers.
Don't make excuses for them. I mean, I understand.
Not making excuses, but I'm just saying
it's more of a reason
this complicates it.
Yeah, no, it's challenging. I agree.
Yep.
But this is the business they're in.
It is. Yep.
Sure.
And we're the beta testers.
Well, but that's,
we are now the beta testers.
That's the problem, is that I don't think it's being pitched as a beta version of an operating system.
No, it's not. Actually, Leo, in some cases, it's not being pitched at all. It's just being put on your computer.
Forced. Are people actually getting it if they didn't say yes?
Well, they're getting the download.
That's the latest. They're getting the bits. It's downloading, Is that true?
Yeah.
They've really mismanaged this whole invitation thing. I think that's...
It's right. And by the way, that goes under my bad. So in my good, bad, ugly, bad, and not sort of being overly aggressive, pushing Windows 10 on people. Yeah. Ugly. I'm just going to download it. We know better than you. We know you're going to want it eventually, and we know when you want it, you're going to want it right away.
And if it's not ready, then it really is. It's even more unconscionable, frankly. I mean, it's one thing to be rude, but this is more than rude if it's not stable.
Yep.
But still, you as a customer decide: do you want it or don't? Or
no,
don't you?
You just have a few gigabytes on your drive just sitting there.
Right. But I mean, you're still the one who can actually say, yes, I want it. And don't forget, they have that 30-day guarantee thing. If you hate it, you can roll back to your last operating system.
Yeah, but if you don't know you have it, you just have it sitting in a .Windows 0 folder on your root.
It's also a wonderful opportunity to discover that something doesn't work, you know?
Right.
Because sometimes that doesn't work.
And if you have bandwidth caps, that's an issue. You know, if you're, you know, that extra 3 gigs, that might make a difference to you. If you have a hard drive that's running out of space.
Yeah. So actually right. You know, if you have Windows 7, I don't believe it's been a while, but I don't think there's a way to inform the OS that this is a metered connection. Please treat it nicely. You could do that in Windows 8.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, you could be getting 3+ gigs, right, over some.
Gardner in the chat was saying, and if you don't like the download and you erase the folder, it downloads it again?
Oh, really? Jeez. Persistence.
There is a word to describe software like that. What is it?
Yikes.
No, that's not good.
Yeah.
It really is important that you know, we said this. It's really important Microsoft got this one right. That's disappointing.
They would have had an easier time getting it right if they had held off for October. I mean, you know, a lot of what they do is self-imposed. Mary Jo just turned into a tiny person for some reason.
It's a little bitty Mary Jo. Hello, Mary Jo.
What happened there?
I don't know. Alex!
Squish your head.
There.
How did that happen? It's kind of magical.
Hello, Mary Jo.
It's hard to take her seriously.
Let's keep it like that from now on.
She talks like a mouse. Could you position her on my shoulder?
For talking bad about my Windows 10 experience.
Yeah, Skype said, I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Right.
Well, I'm disappointed. I really have high hopes. I really want Microsoft to do well. And I wanted Windows 10 to be the fix that makes everything okay again.
You know what? For me, I'm still keeping it in spite of the instability because there's more I like than dislike right now about it. And I like it much better still than Windows 8.1. It works better for me, but I really want them to get the stability thing sorted out here.
Yeah.
This is
I don't see. My problem is I don't see a fix for the App Store. I mean, unfortunately, it's Windows, so obviously you can get, you know, the apps I need are all on the web anyway. But, but I think that's important for the long-term viability of the platform. And over time, we're going to see those desktop apps that are packaged like mobile apps, right, using AppX or whatever they're using, and or App V, and we'll see how that goes. You know, but I just, you know. You look at it like the Google Play Store or the iOS App Store, and it's amazing. And you look at Amazon and say, it's all right. And Chrome, it's okay. And then the Windows Store is kind of the worst one. It's like, ooh, like, what is this? I mean, it's awful. Even the Windows Phone Store looks awesome by comparison. I mean, if you can get by all the farting apps and whatnot. But, you know, as far as like sheer app count, it's actually well above Windows.
You get a lot of farting apps.
Oh, plenty of farting in Windows. It's the go-to platform.
You gotta wonder. I can't imagine that there's really a market. It seems for that kind of application on Windows Phone. I mean, it seems
remember in the old days, you do like Hello World, and then you'd make like an RSS reader, and now you make like a farting app.
It's just, I can't. I mean, isn't this more of an enterprise device? I see guys in business suits. I just.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
You know, although I got to say, when I had an iPad, and I had one a while ago, several years ago, I used to always go into the store there and go, there's nothing I want.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know. I feel like that's a problem with stores.
It is.
In general.
I do also feel like Apple's cleaned it up a little bit, but
well, there's a different problem on Apple and probably Google where there's too much stuff now.
There's
right?
so much. There's millions, literally, of apps.
It's you really are relying on whoever is curating the store to show you apps that are good because browsing the store is meaningless. It's
well, they have a broken search. So
thing at the end of Indiana Jones, you know, just kind of goes off in the distance.
Yeah. I know the Holy Grail's in here somewhere, but where?
Yeah, it's just a matter of walking around and finding it.
No problem.
Yeah.
Well, let's cheer ourselves up. Let's talk about something some happy news. Windows 10 Mobile.
Oh, God.
I don't want this to be the Microsoft's screwing up show. I want it to be the Microsoft's doing
you know
great.
what? Then let's not talk about this because I just don't even know what to say anymore.
Why your article? I can't say the words that you put in the show notes.
Right.
But
actually,
bleep.
let me see if I can. I think I cleaned up my original explanation.
The article's a little bit more. Yeah.
I think the article's probably better, but what I wrote is if you're starting to get the idea that the same Windows team, which so elegantly handles Windows 10 builds for PCs, treats Windows 10 mobile builds for phone like some sort of absurd clown car of high comedy, well, you're not alone. And while I'm not sensitive or shallow enough to claim that this kind of buffoonery really makes me nervous about the future of this platform, well, it's bad enough that Microsoft is getting killed in the market. The death from within stuff is both unnecessary and particularly hard to take.
Yes, I agree. Because you know what? Windows Phone is great. It had a lot of potential. Struggling in the market. You can't afford to screw up. Now, let's face it. This is a beta. It's not like real people are seeing this or anything.
No, but here's the thing. Back in the day, you could make a nice argument that nobody used Windows Phone, but it was better. And you'd always have that. You would always be able to say, I don't know why people don't use this. It's so fantastic. By virtue of a couple of things, Microsoft moving too slowly, competitors just moving along. I mean, you saw the stuff that Apple announced. You saw the stuff that Google announced a few months ago at I/O, and they'll release new Nexus devices and so forth. The rest of the world's just moving on. The camera thing, we don't own that anymore. I mean, all the stuff you used to kind of point to and say, well, Windows Phone has this. The integrated stuff where all the services would come in one hub view, blah, blah, long gone, long gone. I mean, all the stuff that we really cared about. Even goofy little things. Mary Jo talked about conversation view, which is not a goofy little thing, but like a single feature. In the Mail app, Windows Phone had linked inboxes. Wonderful feature. Gone. So gone. And at some point you just have to kind of say, this is getting pointless. I mean, I'm really curious to see what Microsoft announces for the new flagships next month. I mean, I think we pretty much know what they are. I want to see them. I want to hold them in my hand. I want to see if they really are, do stand up. But I think we just have to kind of acknowledge that these things are not going to be better than iPhone 6S. They're not going to be better than Galaxy S6. They're not going to be better than whatever you want to point to. Are they going to be good enough to satisfy the needs of the people who are getting a little angsty about what's going on with Windows phones or Windows 10 mobile? That's an open question. But man, a month goes by with no builds, and they release this crazy explanation for why there were no builds in that month, and it reads like a foreign language. I don't even know what they're talking about. They don't say anything. Here's a picture of dots and lines, and this is whatever, and all I see is nothing happening, and it makes me nervous.
Well, it is concerning given that they've got to ship it pretty soon, right? What are they saying for ship date now?
They said. Well, actually, I don't even know if they ever said fall. Did they say fall? I know they said before the end of this year.
Yeah, yeah.
So I said on the last show, my theory is they're going to have these new Windows phones ship with something that's not RTM.
Oh.
And they're going to have that.
And that will work out fine because they have no problem shipping updates.
But then they'll ship updates. That's my guess. I mean...
It's by definition RTM if it ships on the new phone. I'm sorry. That's by definition. We're manufacturing it.
Well, there are mobile operators out there right now who have Windows 10 Mobile who are testing it. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, of course they are.
So
that's why this is non-trivial. You have to get it to the carriers before you could ship it.
Yeah, they're not testing RTM. They're testing whatever that build is that they have. So,
what's the test? Does it work yet? No, it doesn't. Okay, Joe, thanks. Let me know when it does. Okay.
The test is, are we able to block updates? Yes. Okay, let's ship it.
The part about this week is, so there was a mobile build that came out this week. 10536 was the build. And the part that I got the most nervous about was somehow this build got pushed to people who had phones that didn't support the test build. So people with like an HTC 8X got this build, and they were all excited. They're like, oh, wow, I can install Windows 10 Mobile. And they installed it, and they bricked their phones because it wasn't supposed to go to them, and there was some reason it got pushed out to people who shouldn't have gotten it. I don't think there's been any kind of information. I mean, I've seen people saying reflash your phone. I've seen a lot of people saying they're stuck and they are stuck in an endless loop and they can't get out of it. So that's what's kind of worrying me. I'm like, okay, I know they've still got things to do. They've got things to fix. You know, there are big things and small things that are still not done with Windows 10 Mobile. But this makes me nervous too, because this is part of the whole Windows as a service thing. Right? Like we can push updates to people. I'm concerned.
Well, they succeeded.
I'm concerned about that one.
I mean, and to take it to the next level, when they finally do officially release it, the download and install process took several hours. I don't actually know how long, because I started at 8 o'clock in the morning. When I was done at 5, it hadn't finished yet, and it finished overnight sometime. I got up this morning and it was all there, and it's like, and look, it's a beta, you know, okay. I mean, I get it. We're testing things, whatever, but the whole thing has the sense of mismanagement about it. Like, it just doesn't seem like I felt good about, you know, obviously Gabe Ball and those guys at Windows 10 for PCs did a great job. You know, there were times obviously where things weren't going as well, but overall, you know, I think it went really, really well.
This does feel a little doomier.
Yeah, a little doomier. Yeah. Yes, it does. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I when they said in April that they would ship this thing in July, I said there's absolutely no way they're ever going to be able to do that, and it worked. I mean, you know, to some extent. So maybe they will be able to do this for Windows 10 Mobile, and I can, you know, stop complaining so much, and everything will be great. And I have a hard time believing that that's the end game, but I would happily accept it. I desperately want to be wrong about this, but I don't feel good about it.
Wow. Maybe it's, well, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, I can't use it as my phone. You know?
Yeah. That's what's frustrating. If you can't even use it as a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was able to use Windows 10 for PCs as my, for all the problems, you know, for months and months and months. And
so this isn't even usable.
I don't think it is. I mean, it's coming along. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'm still at this point where you kind of do all the upgrades just to get the build, and then you just have to reset it, and it's in slightly better shape when you do that.
How do you like the new Photos app, though?
Well, so the old Photos app was absolutely unusable, right? Just for like the simplest things in the world. Like the very first thing one of the first things you want to do when you get your phone up and running, go into personalize. I want to set like a color scheme up. I want to put a background image on the start screen. You go to background image, and there's nothing there because the photo app could never see anything that was yours. And so now they've added the ability to have albums that include, like, you can see your entire OneDrive structure. Right. Just like we had in Windows Phone 7, you know, like finally, like it's that stupid, like so that app was a big update, but it was a big update because the version we've been dealing with for the past several months has been completely unusable. You know, so I'm glad they did it. Yeah, same thing they added on the desktop too. You know, you can go through your whole OneDrive. Nice from the app. That's the way it should have always been.
So roll back to the pre-beta, right? We just roll back to the last version.
I'll just go back to Windows Phone and pretend nothing ever happened. Sure.
Wow.
Yep. I don't know. I'm losing it with the Windows Phone stuff.
I feel like this is it possible that Nadella really doesn't care about this? And
there's clearly less emphasis or, you know, concern about the mobile thing. Clearly. I mean,
it already took the write-off. It's like at this point.
Yeah, I mean, right.
They know they need to have a play in mobile. I mean, that's why they're staying in it, right? Like they're like, you know what? We can't get totally out of it. We've got to get more focused. We've got to hedge our bets here. I keep wondering if it's, you know, we know it's one Windows team now, right? So the team that's doing Windows 10 is doing Windows 10 Mobile, right? It's the same team.
Yeah, I know.
And, you know, they've got a lot on their plate with Windows 10 as far as rolling that out and updating it and pushing updates to us, whether we want them or not. So maybe it's just, you know, then resources. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just throwing
They're
that
trying
out
to do
there.
something hard, which is one Windows.
They are
That is
trying to do
hard.
something hard.
They're trying to do something hard.
Well, it's not like they're not working on Windows either. I mean, it's not like Windows 10 is done. Let's all move over to Windows 10 mobile.
No, that's right. That's right.
They still have to do what they were doing.
Right. It's interesting because this has come and gone. Microsoft for a while had multiple versions of Windows. They unified them all through XP.
Right.
And they're going to try to stay this kind of one Windows. Meanwhile, Apple seems to be spinning off operating systems right and
They're
left.
doing the opposite, right?
Watch
They're doing,
OS,
like,
the TV, that is a TV OS, not iOS. There's iOS. There's Mac OS. Different teams, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's the total opposite approach, right? So that's interesting. Yeah.
Not that Apple's perfect either. They
No.
They just delayed the ship date of watchOS 2.
Yeah, I'm not really clear on what happened there, but I don't.
Well, that's the
They'll
right
ship
thing to
it
do,
up a day.
though. They said there's a bug. So they said, so we're not going to push it.
You mean artificially hitting a date is not the right thing to do? That's
Yeah,
weird.
right. So supposedly comes out Wednesday. They found a bug.
Right.
Unlike iOS and macOS,
Yes.
which have been in continuous public beta for the last few months,
Right.
watchOS was not. They found a bug,
Right.
and they did the right thing, which is say, oh, no, we're not going to push it. And they didn't set another date, by the way. They said, soon.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough thing when you announce a date.
I know.
Yep.
That's why you shouldn't announce dates.
Yep.
Why do companies announce dates? Partners and
That's exciting,
there's
And
just a
they
sense
want
of,
Isn't
people
it? I
to
mean,
be ready for it, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're going to get it on such and such a date.
but we've known forever, as long as there's been computer programmers, that you don't ship on time. Nothing ships on time.
yeah. Well, the whole id Software thing, we'll ship it when it's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine unless you make something like Duke Nukem Forever that doesn't ship, ever or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
You got to
obviously it
ship
did eventually
sometime.
ship.
Okay, that's the opposite
Yeah.
end of the spectrum. True.
Yeah, still has to ship.
Software's never perfect.
Shipping is a feature.
Let's take a break, and then we'll go on. We've got some interesting mobile information. Surface Pro getting an update. Office 2016, we've got a date. A little more about Groove. Of course, the back of the book stuff, it's all coming up. Our show today brought to you by the great folks at IT Pro TV. Tim and Don are so nice. I just like them. But I also really like what they're doing, which is making it easy and affordable for you to get the skills you need to get a job in IT or a better job in IT, to get the certs you need to make it possible in a fun, engaging, and affordable way. IT Pro TV. They now have 2 studios, 50 hours every week being added, and those become part of a permanent library covering everything: A+, CCNA, Security Plus, MCSA, CISSP, network security, desktop support for Linux, Windows, OS 10, servers. They've got the great Certified Ethical Hacker program that they've been doing from Sean Philip Oriano. He also did a Hacking Forensics Investigator series and a crypto series. You can get that CEH cert. Really, really fun courses, by the way. And he's so good at teaching them. You get the virtual machine sandbox lab environment. So even if you don't have Windows, you could set up a Windows server and clients through an HTML5 browser. It's a great experience. And don't worry, if you screw it up, you just do what I do. Close the browser window. Measure Up practice exams come with your subscription. That's worth $79. There's Tim Broom. I'm sorry, that's Don, isn't it? There's Tim Broom. They were there here at the studio. They said, we want to do something like Twit, but for IT and IT professionals, and that's IT Pro TV. Now, the pricing is right, $57 a month, or if you buy a year, you get $570, so you get 2 months free. But they have a special offer. First of all, when you go to itpro.tv/WW, Use the offer code WW30, and you get free 7 days, so you can check it all out, and 30% off your subscription for the lifetime of your account. Less than $40 a month now, or $3.99 for the whole year. Wow. They also have a basic plan, which is really nice. The free basic account lets you watch live anytime. They stream Monday through Friday at starting at 9:30 a.m. This week, they're doing MTA mobility and device fundamentals, security tech skills. We should all watch that. And their MCSA Windows 10 stuff. Next week, Exchange CompTIA A+. I bet you most people listening to the show could get an A+ cert if they wanted to. Watch the programming next week. And MCSA Windows 10. Microsoft Certified, what is it, Systems Administrator? Is that what it stands for? Their live stream is free with the basic account. So go, Hy-Vee to itpro.tv/WW. Sign up for the free account. And if you want to buy, make sure you use the offer code WW30. You'll get 30% off. Very affordable. And if you're going to Spiceworks IT Conference, Spiceworks 2015, it's in Austin, September 23rd to 25. Don and Tim will be there. Look for them. They won't be wearing the fezzes, but you could probably spot them and say hi. Tell them Leo said hi, too. itpro.tv/WW. Don't forget the offer code WW30. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. We're talking Microsoft. We're talking Windows on Windows Weekly, as we do every Wednesday. And now we come to some better news about mobile. Cortana on Android.
Yeah, they're kicking ass on other platforms.
Actually, this is Cyanogen, which is interesting. Didn't Microsoft invest in Cyanogen? Or was that a rumor?
Yes. And well, they had a partnership with Cyanogen, right? So they're going to put a bunch of their apps on there.
Okay.
I think at the time, I don't know if Outlook had come out yet, but I think Outlook will be added. And now what we're finding out is that Cortana is going to be added, according to, I think it was the CEO of Cyanogen. And because they make the, it's Android, obviously, but they're going to integrate it into the OS. So they're going to allow Microsoft to do that thing where you say, hey, Cortana, and it wakes up and does your bidding. And that's actually kind of really interesting. And
I think it's very interesting.
I've thought for a while now that Android was basically plan B for Microsoft in the mobile space. And this kind of, not confirms that, but I would say kind of strengthens that view, that this Cyanogen version of Android, because they now have access to the Google Play stuff in their version of Android or whatever, this starts to look really interesting.
Yeah, and yet they're kind of phasing out some Google stuff, because what I gather they're doing is replacing Google Now with Cortana, right?
That's right. Yeah. But, look, when you have an Android device or an iPhone, right, today, you need Google Maps. Like, you would be crazy not to use Google Maps. And there are certain Google apps and services that just, make plenty of sense to use on those devices. And for there to be replacements for those, they can't be Amazon's Doohickey app. They have to be, something viable, something that really works. And
crazy thought.
Yeah.
What if Microsoft partnered with Cyanogen and just made Cyanogen the OS on future Windows mobile devices?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
People have guessed that, right?
That's my theory. That's what I mean by Plan B.
You're thinking that could happen?
Yeah. Well, no. I'm speculating. I mean, in other words, I sort of think of this as a fallback.
Yeah.
If everything goes south, this is the next best thing. I mean, it's not perfect, but I mean, I don't know. If you could have a Lumia device that had Android OS on it and some awesome Lumia apps plus all the awesome Google apps and stuff, I mean, are you telling me that wouldn't be interesting?
Yeah, it would be very
to a lot of people. I think it would be.
Yep.
I think you're thinking as a user, not as Satya Nadella. I don't, no, seriously, I don't think it could ever happen.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because they're so publicly one Windows everywhere. It'd be like saying, we're going to use PlayStation 4 on our Xbox One.
What if, Leo, Universal Apps ran on Android?
It's not the same. Don't you want Windows?
It's one Windows.
By the way, could Universal Apps run on Android?
I know.
Why not?
Android's Java.
It depends what you consider to be a universal
Android's not
app.
just Java. I mean,
well, it is Java, but but Java has a runtime. You can make, and people have done this. You can make a XAML to Java. You know what? I just it would be such a capitulation for Microsoft. I think they would close the Windows Phone division before
they just got on Apple stage. You know, to me, this is. I mean, is there a hole too deep? You know,
that's a hole too deep.
Okay.
I think they would. Seriously, they would
just
shutter
a thought.
the platform.
I'm not saying I support this as a strategy. I'm just, you know, just a thought.
Well, you know, we'll find out. You know, of course, the day will come. Maybe not so long when Paul comes on and says, "See, I told you."
No, it's not about because I'm not suggesting that this is the right thing to do, nor am I saying that this is what's going to happen. I don't get to say I'm right about it. I'm not right about anything. I'm just saying it's a thought.
It's good to have a plan B.
Yeah.
Right. It's good to have a plan.
Yeah. Well, it is if you say that being in phones is our mission critical business for us.
I don't think it is.
It's
I think
not.
it's very clearly being in phones is
just
not.
dump it.
I see what you're saying. Right.
So the only reason you would, because this is a black mark, because you've been saying Windows kernel, Windows everywhere, Windows, but except on the phone, we're going to use Android. That's such a capitulation.
Right. So in other words, what makes Windows Windows, right? You know, the Xbox is sort of a Windows device, but it's not really Windows, right? Not as we sort of think of it. If you could get a Windows runtime, a Windows Universal Apps runtime running on Android, I mean, arguably.
That's as good a strategy as BlackBerry. That's what BlackBerry did.
No. Well, okay. I don't mean an emulation. I mean, but okay.
Well, it is an emulation.
Right. Comparing it to BlackBerry is very deflating. But
well, BlackBerry did the opposite. They stuck with their operating system. Actually, they did what Microsoft did and allowed Android apps to run on their operating system. You're saying dump Windows Mobile and go to Cyanogen and just keep the apps. Really?
Well, I'm not saying it. I'm just, you know.
Yeah. You're saying, I understand what you're saying. You're saying if at some point, I mean, there's going to be a point where Satya Nadella has to say, are we staying in phones, right? Like he just said recently, we're going to stay in phones for now, and we're going to try this new plan, and we're going to see how it goes. But he strikes me as someone who isn't endlessly tolerant for things losing money.
Right.
At some point, there's going to be a day, right, where he has to make a decision.
I actually don't think this plan's going to work at all. I think a year from now, we're going to be having the same conversation we had in July. What about what they've done to phone makes you think this is going to be successful? Right. There's no success to be had here.
If all you want is the apps to run, stop making phones. Make sure they run well on iOS and Android.
You don't have to make the phones. You just have to make this available. In other words, if you could partner with Cyanogen and have them make the phones, and then one of the features of that phone, one of the ways that they get away from Google, which apparently is their goal, is that you can run universal apps on those phones. You know, that I'm not saying it's a strategy for getting rid of Windows Phone or whatever, but it's a possibility. It's an idea. You know, it takes away the big risks. I mean, what are the big expenses aside from buying Nokia that Microsoft has right now? It's probably the manufacturing of phones that nobody buys. You know, and then shipping them around the world.
That's probably not a good business to be in.
Right, so they could get out of that business.
Well, I agree with you on that. They can get out of that business. Yeah. That's what we're saying is that.
And actually, by the way, that's probably what happens next July.
Right.
Is Windows phones become third-party only.
Right. And
then we could look forward to July 2017 where Windows Phone just ceases to exist. Right. I mean, it just seems like it's heading in that direction.
That's clearly what's going to happen.
I think so.
I think so. Car Talk and Talk Phone are the last two Windows Phone devices from Microsoft.
No, I think we'll see more.
I don't know what it's called.
CityMan?
CityMan and TalkMan are the last, whatever the hell you call it.
It doesn't matter, Leo, because
the last two devices. No.
Yeah, no, there'll be more, but it's just
there'll be more. Yeah, I don't know. What their criteria is for judging when you say, okay, we give up.
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, in a way, they kind of already did by taking the write-off, right? The write-down is saying, yeah, that Nokia thing didn't work out so good.
Yeah, except they're
that's just the Nokia thing.
Phones,
I mean,
right.
Yeah, they could still work out something where they have partners building phones and they make the platform.
Right.
They bring it back to the kind of pure PC model.
Right.
Actually, they're kind of doing that right now. If you think about it, Lumia sort of is their surface for phone. I mean, it's you know, a limited number of devices in-house.
Right.
The problem is no one sells any Windows phones that isn't Microsoft.
Nadella is speaking tonight at Dreamforce. You think he'll say anything
about that? No.
Yes,
we can say a couple of things about it. We could say Microsoft and Salesforce compete, but they also are partners. And we know Microsoft almost bought Salesforce. So say the tipsters. Yeah, so Nadella is keynoting tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's being live streamed if you want to watch it.
We're going to try to also stream it from Twit, I think.
Dreamforce.com is where it'll be. So.
Mike Elgin is at Dreamforce. We've got a camera crew down there. Nice. So we're actually trying to get interviews with all the people, but of course, they say, "Hey, are you know Mary Jo Foley?" I say, "Yes." He says, "Well, I'll talk to her." Aw, my bud, Satya.
Yeah.
What is this Android lock screen that I actually have never used this lock screen, but people really like it. It's called. What is it called? Double Labs makes
Echo lock screen. I think it's called Echo.
Yeah, Echo
notification lock screen.
Yeah, I've never used it, but Microsoft bought them. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Acquire? Are they hiring the people?
Yep. But it's some small number of people. Supposedly, it's a startup in Palo Alto. I don't know how many people actually work there. I don't think very many. So they bought the company, they bought the lock screen. And the weirdest part is Microsoft has already built its own Android lock screen, and it's in the Google Play Store. Yeah.
Right. And it's really nice.
Oh, I'll get it. Let me try it.
Yep. So Julie Larson Green, who is the Chief Experience Officer over in the Apps and Services Division, is the one who disclosed that they bought the company. And she talked about it saying, we want to have mind share and market share in all these different mobile spaces. And this app is very popular. And, Android's actually more popular on phones than Windows Phone. That's true. So we need to have a big test bed for things like this because it's a productivity app. So that's why we did it.
Well, there you go.
So there you go. We don't know how much they paid. We don't even know when they bought them. This was disclosed in an interview, and there was never any Microsoft announcement saying they bought them or anything.
So is this a Next lock screen? Is that the one?
Yeah. Well, this is the one Microsoft already made.
Oh, so this is not their version of Echo. This is
no. This is one they already did. Yeah.
This came out of the garage. Yeah.
Yep. The garage. Yep.
Okay. So maybe they want to. Yeah. Maybe they want to get some of the features of Echo.
Maybe.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Echo, though, supposedly has a really big market share. I forget how many downloads of this app there are, but it's not trivial, and it's one of the more popular Android lock screens, I guess. What do I know? I'm not all about Android.
What I got to tell you, there are so many Android phones.
Yeah. Lock screens, right?
Yeah. You're just not used to seeing 10 million downloads.
Right.
Yeah.
Because but that's kind of like routine.
Yeah. We need a statistic for how many downloads are not just throwaways. Someone downloads, tries it, and says, "eh."
Echo has 1 to 5 million, which is actually not super popular for this kind of stuff. Okay. No, that's pretty small.
But it's still millions. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I see. My theory, though, is why would you buy a lock screen? Like, what is this? Like, that's goofy.
I have never. Yeah, every time I try other lock screens, I'm fine. I like. I
don't think it was about the lock screen app. I think it was that these guys have some understanding of integrating things into Android, and it was the people and the expertise.
That's what I think too.
Because I like a lock screen app. I mean, we've stooped to this level. We're going to be talking about. Like these goofy individual little apps on other platforms.
This is our new world, Paul.
I know. I'm
sorry,
kicking and screaming. I just want to talk about Windows and Office and Server, and I hate this other stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So sending Microsoft brings what is this hybrid app for sending it?
Yeah.
This is another garage app. Microsoft did this app called Send. It's kind of a mashup between texting and email. And they first made it available on iPhones a couple of months ago. And as of today, it's now in preview for Android phones. And before anyone asks, what about Windows Phone? Yeah, they say it's coming.
Oh, God. Insult to injury.
Coming soon. Yeah. It's kind of weird. It's almost like a chat app that's embedded inside of your email, and it lets you communicate quickly and more directly with either a single person, or you can have groups of people too. And it's free if you want to try it on Android.
Send beta.
It's in beta on Android. It's, yeah.
Feels like texting works like email. Yeah, we've seen this kind of thing before.
Yeah, yeah.
It is, you know, I think that's why a lot of people are ending up using HipChat and Slack and Messenger and various forms, because that is a more efficient way to collaborate. We use HipChat.
Did you say this came out? Is this Office or Garage, or what is this? Who does this?
This is Garage. The Garage.
Garage.
Okay.
Garage, yes.
If you're going to stay
I
at
give
the Yale Club.
Microsoft, when it comes to mobile, is all over the map, but I give them a little bit of credit because I think it'd be really easy for them to fall into their kind of traditional worldview about what apps are and you know, just make more versions of Word or whatever. But they really seem to be experimenting and doing so publicly. You know, a lot of the stuff isn't going to fly, but it's kind of cool that a company as, you know, staid as Microsoft is, you know, doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Garage is their tech incubator. So its mission is to do consumer apps, and they're called experiments. So sometimes Microsoft may just say, you know what, that didn't work out, we're getting rid of it. So it doesn't mean it's a permanent commercial product if you try one of these things. Yeah, so lots of Android news today. Maybe we should become all about Android.
Yeah.
Microsoft on Android. Microdroid.
Microdroid.
Oh, God, if I had only known this was coming, I would have gotten out of this a long time ago.
It's not too late.
Let's talk about Surface Pro 3 and the firmware update.
Yeah, there's not much to say there. So normally is this mine? I don't mean to steal this.
It's got PT
every month
next to
It's
it.
you.
Yeah, we have
PT.
the potential, you know, for Surface firmware updates every month. Sometimes there are lots of them. Sometimes there's only a few. I think last month we saw Surface Pro 2 and Surface Pro 3 got a number of updates. This month, Surface Pro 3 got one update, and that was it. No other Surface firmware updates. It was related to the micro SD card that's under the kickstand and performance issues that harm battery life. And so honestly, there's not much else to say there. They just one firmware update.
Windows 10 start menu comes to, wait for it, Windows RT.
Hooray!
Right. So everybody remember when Microsoft said Windows RT devices were not going to get all of Windows 10? They said, you're going to get a subset of features. And they would never say which features or when. Now we know. We got it last night. It was just an optional KB update pushed to us. And when you install that KB update, you get a start menu that's not exactly the same as the Windows 10 start menu. So you can pin apps to the tile part of the start menu and all, like you can with Windows 10. You also now have round account pictures like you do with Windows 10, and that's about it. That's all the features we got.
You know, a start menu, that's a pretty big deal, frankly.
Yeah.
It's more than those people deserve, Leo.
Hey, I'm one of those people.
I can tell you from my Twitter stream, people are not upbeat about just only getting the start menu.
Sure.
They thought they were going to get more.
I thought that's all Windows 10 was, is a start menu.
That sounds about right. So you're saying I shouldn't speak tonight about Windows 10?
No, you can, but it'll be short. Hey, you know Windows 8?
Yeah, it's a new start
add a
menu.
start menu.
I'll take questions now.
I like the start menu on the Surface RT. I still have my Surface RT. I did the download, and I'm like, I like that, actually.
It's not. It's somebody saying it's not the Windows 10 start menu.
It's not exactly the Windows 10 start menu. It looks and acts a lot like it, but I've seen people saying it's one of the start menus that was in development on the way to Windows 10, but not actually the one that's in Windows 10.
We're all such experts in what Microsoft was doing internally, aren't we? I love that kind of talk. You know, that was it came out of it was a fork of the Longhorn stuff before they got rid of the sidebar. Yeah, sure it was.
Yeah.
Sure it was.
Yeah,
it wasn't
I've got
something
people,
that one intern just invented this year. That it's not that. It's yeah.
Hey,
I've got
look, I
people
just
saying,
invented a start menu.
It was so soft. It's just really amazing.
I think it's just it's kind of people who did go get the Surface, the original Surface, the Surface 2, the Lumia tablet, and other ARM-based devices because at the time Microsoft was really bullish about ARM-based tablets.
Right.
You kind of thought, this is the future. They're going this way.
It is. That's why I bought it.
It really was
now,
the future.
no,
Remember, this was, it was devices and this new app model. This was going to be the future, and then it wasn't.
No.
Well, by the way, you can't resize the tile space, somebody says. So that's a...
No, really, it's just that one.
Just a chunk. Just a chunk there.
Yeah.
The old chunk. Office 2016. I'm downloading the version on the Mac right now, but for Windows, it'll be coming out.
It's very good. It looks a lot like the Windows version.
Nice.
So the Windows version will launch next week. I will have a lot more to say about this next week, assuming it's happening before we talk next week. Yes, it is. So I guess there's more to come there. Also, concurrently with this, they're updating Office mobile apps and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I don't have it in the notes, but there was an update today for OneNote on iOS 9, to support multitasking, some of those new features. And we're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff as well. But we'll talk, I think next week we'll have a lot more to say about Office 2016 on Windows.
Nice.
Yeah. But the one thing we should point out, because it's so popular with Windows 10, these branches, like the...
Yes, right.
How in Windows 10 you have different servicing models, and so there's the current branch and the current branch for business. Well, they're going to do that exact same thing with Office now. So people who are on the current branch for Office are going to get updates to Office pushed to them repeatedly and often from Microsoft. I think they're saying every 3 or 4 months you're going to get new features pushed to you. If you're a business customer and you're on the equivalent of the current branch for business for Office, you can hold back and wait longer before you apply these new features that come to you through the servicing branches. But yeah, it's all going that way now. So if you loved the Windows 10 branches, you're going to love the Office one. And if you didn't, too bad. You're getting the Office branches.
Well, if you're confused, we have a diagram that'll really help you understand.
Clears it right up.
Right up.
Yeah. There it is. So are you green, are you blue, are you red? Ask your IT department, and you'll know which branch you're in.
Yeah.
Actually, that chart is much clearer than the one that they provided to explain why Windows 10 Mobile wasn't working.
That chart is, even though that looks really convoluted, it
color actually helps.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm getting a little faint looking at it, but I'm sure that's why you guys are the pros.
We're all going to need deep therapy when this is over.
All right, one more thing about groove music, then we'll get to the back of the book.
So two more things about groove music.
The Zune is finally retiring.
I had thought that I had said goodbye to Zune already, but as it turns out,
no.
There are people who had subscribed to Zune Music Pass. I don't know if it was there from 2006 on, probably, that have been paying for this every month. And if you subscribe to that original Zune Music Pass and never ended your subscription, you got free 10 music purchases every month, right? Which are permanent. They're
I remember
not part
that.
of the subscription,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It was such a great thing.
Yeah.
And when Zune Music Pass became Xbox Music Pass, Xbox Music Pass dropped that little nicety. They got rid of the 10 things. And I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say the Zune Music Pass maybe originally was a little more expensive or something, and maybe for a while they had the 2 different types or whatever. But and then, of course, it became Groove Music Pass recently this year. But people who stuck with that, who never got rid of it, have continued to get 10 free songs every month. And, of course, they've been kind of X'd out some of the newer stuff, if you're using a Zune device or the Zune PC software and so forth. But you could take advantages. It was kind of nice. You get like 10 songs every month. I'm confused why they kept it going for so long. I suspect someone forgot it was even there, but they just announced that.
That's the beauty of software. It just keeps running.
Just keeps going, yeah. It's like a little virus there in the background. But they're going to get rid of it in November. They're going to move everyone over to Groove Music Pass, obviously. And if you don't want to do that, you can cancel your subscription and they'll give you your money back, for the remainder of the subscription. So,
but those 10 songs a month are yours to keep forever.
Yeah. Well, there. I mean, they were added to your collection permanently. You can download them anytime you want. You can use them offline. Obviously, they're yours. So that's, honestly, in the scope of a lot of the bad news we've been talking about, not just today, but in the recent past, this is not a big deal. I mean, this is something that's been around for several years. They kept running even after it made sense to do so. I think they did right by customers here. I don't really think there's a lot to complain about. So just something to note. It is going away. And then in the truly good news department, Microsoft and Sonos announced today that Groove Music is now available on Sonos. And that's kind of incredible. So Sonos, obviously, these smart Wi-Fi connected speaker systems you can put all around your house. I literally have not bought a Sonos because I use Microsoft service and it doesn't work there. And today I ordered my first Sonos device, and so I'm going to start playing around with this stuff. I have friends who own these speakers awesome. And love them. Yeah. And I've played around with them at their homes. They both actually use Android, so you can control. There's a Sonos app that runs on iOS or Android, and there's a Windows client as well, but it's a desktop client. I do know from, let's say, someone at Microsoft that there is, in fact, a Sonos app for Windows Phone. It just hasn't been publicly released, and so
that was one of the handful of apps that kept me from using Windows Phone all the time.
Yeah, so it's coming, supposedly, or will be coming, hopefully, sometime. It does exist.
Is it going to be a universal app, do you know?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. They said Windows Phone, so I'm not sure. I think this is I don't know. I just don't know. So I don't want to speculate. Hopefully, that would be great. That would be the obvious right way to do it, because I'd like to control this stuff from Windows if I could. And then there's some questions about how it works. And Leo, you might know more about this than I do because I don't use Sonos, but if you think about, obviously, if you have a Windows client, you'll have apps that are on your Windows PC that can get onto Sonos. And that the purpose of these apps, if it's Pandora, Spotify, I imagine, is on here, whatever they might have, is that now you can get songs from the service onto Sonos.
Yeah.
And so my understanding of the Groove app is that it's Groove specific stuff. So if you have songs in OneDrive, those will be available. If you have a Groove Music Pass subscription, that stuff will be available. But the music that's on your PC doesn't come out through Groove onto Sonos. That's my understanding.
Probably not.
Does that sound like
Sonos
the way it works?
Does. It doesn't work very well, but Sonos can scan your local music library and play stuff from it. You have to keep it running on your Windows PC, keep the Windows PC on the network, and then it can do that.
Yep. But is it separate from, in other words, so you've got music on your PC, and let's say you're using Spotify.
Right.
Can you commingle those two groups of music?
No, that's not how Sonos works. You're using one or the other service.
That's what I mean.
So if you're using Spotify or Groove on Sonos, that's what you're listening to. The question is whether Groove would be smart enough to see your local music, because it can do that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. So, it does on your PC and on phones, but my understanding is that in Sonos it doesn't.
I would guess not.
And that's I'm not, again, I don't have it yet.
Google Music, because you upload tokens for everything you have, will.
Right, because it does music matching.
Right.
Actually, Groove will do that as well.
Does Groove? Well, maybe then it will.
But you have to have
I played with Groove on Sonos
you have to have
in
a
beta.
Subscription.
And I didn't have a subscription, but I remember that great Christmas deal where we got like 10 albums free. That's in my Groove account, and I was able to play those through Sonos, so that was nice. But those were not local, obviously. Those
but they're stored in the cloud because they're part of the collection. Right. I should have added music you've purchased through, I almost called it Zune. Groove or Xbox or Zune Music would be there as well. Yes. Yes.
It's nice. If you have Sonos, it is kind of a critical feature. There's a third-party Sonos app. I never really liked it that much available for Windows Phone. But it's the kind of thing you want it to be available on your phone because you want to be able to, be in the bathroom brushing your teeth and put some music on and stuff like that.
Yep. Is that a Moto X you have there, Leo?
Yes, I saw you like your new Moto X.
I do.
We're Moto X buddies.
Is that a Pure Edition? Is that a new one?
Yeah, this is the new one. I got the ebony back.
I got the bamboo back.
I'm actually going to review it. Yeah, I saw. You like it. I'm increasingly of the opinion, as a Windows Phone user, you wouldn't know this, but I'm increasingly of the opinion that if you don't have a fingerprint reader,
I know,
you're kind of left out.
I agree.
I'm starting to think that there are a couple of things that are just going to start being a requirement for phones. And
that's one of them.
But it's starting to be a big one. And
problem
frankly,
is once you've used a fingerprint reader,
don't want to
even
go
a
back.
PIN entry, it's like, seriously? Or maybe you know more about Android than I do, but is there a way to double tap the screen to make it wake up?
No.
I hate not having that.
Yeah, that's on OnePlus does that. I don't think the Motorola gestures, there are Motorola gestures. There's a slash gesture to turn on the flashlight. And there's a gesture like this to make it camera start. And those are all pretty fast and useful. But no, I don't think they have a double tap on the screen. Some phones do.
I double tap the screen every day. I'm so used to
Once you
doing
get used to that, OnePlus One did that, and I really did like that as a feature. The other thing it has a really nice 21 megapixel camera, and like you guys observed, and now I get it. The biggest advantage of that is that you can do a digital zoom and actually get a decent picture.
Yeah,
because there's so many extra pixels.
It's pretty good. It's not.
Doesn't have OIS.
It's not as good as iPhone. It's not.
Optical image stabilization is now also, I think, a requisite in phones. Yep. So there's a few things it's missing, but it's $400.
Yeah.
And it has and it's got wood, which is I love. You can also get leather. Yeah. I got leather last year. I'm a fan of the.
I like the whole configurator thing. I think that's their best.
Moto
feature.
Maker is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are for the price. I think these are very good phones. I'll review them before you buy actually on Friday.
Yeah, nice.
And I saw your nice article about it actually when you got yours.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. Back of the book coming up. Mary Jo Foley's got beer. Don't leave. Don't want to miss the beer. Our show today brought to you by lynda.com. I love Lynda. I love to learn. You love to learn. You wouldn't be listening to our shows. I think it's the human condition. We're all lifelong learners. And lynda.com makes it easy with more than 3,000, actually it's more than 3,600 now, on-demand courses covering, it's mostly technology stuff. They're really great on Microsoft. When Windows 10 came out, they immediately had courses on how to use Windows 10, the essential skills. But they also do business stuff now, a lot of soft business skills. If you want to start a new business, they've got a great course on creating a business plan, business fundamentals, managerial accounting, creating customer value. This is really useful stuff. And the thing is, these are body language for leaders. I've got to watch Accounting Fundamentals, I have to say, because I look at our balance sheets and I go, oh, that's nice. I have no idea what any of it means. Go to lynda.com, lynda.com. The teachers are great. They're passionate. They're smart. They're professionals working in the field. These aren't YouTube videos. They're shot with high quality. The screenshots are legible. The presentations are well done. You're going to get a lot more. There are new courses on the fundamentals of lead generation, on media training. This is great. You spend a lot of money on media training. But it's good. Lynda.com is just part of your regular monthly subscription. Speech writing. Analyzing your website to improve SEO. They've even got the great Kai Kawasaki on entrepreneurship. That is awesome. You can watch offline and on. You can browse course transcripts to search for the part you want to learn. You could create playlists. Some people are completists, that's what I call them, where they want to go beginning to end. Some people just want to dip in, dabble, if you will. And what's nice about it is you can just take a little bit of a course, because what you're subscribing to is the entire site. Very affordable, too. But I tell you what, I got a great deal, 10 days free. That's enough for you to browse through all of the courses, to learn everything you need to know. I just, for 10 whole days, take a whole course beginning to end, or dabble and dip. It's all up to you. Courses in everything you'd want to know. Programming foundations, development tools, cloud computing, and, of course, a lot of Microsoft courses. Lynda, lynda.com/Windows. That's where you go for your 10 days free. Lynda.com/Windows. Just love this. And we thank Linda so much for being such a staunch supporter of Twit for all these years. I've been a staunch supporter of Linda, so works out nicely. Let's kick things off with Mr. Paul Thurrott and his tip of the week. Paul?
I will be brief for a change. So a few months back, I got a recovery image for Surface Pro 3, and my understanding at that time was that these things were only available for the Pro devices, but I saw this week, and I actually did do this for Surface 3, which I had managed to get into an unusable state leading up to the final release of Windows 10, that Microsoft actually makes recovery images available for all Surface devices. So if you have even an RT, Surface 2, Surface 3, Pro 1, 2, 3, whatever, you can go to the support website at Surface, and you can download a recovery image. It forces you to find and type in your serial number, which Mary Jo knows now is written in one-point type on gray with gray text on gray.
Nice.
And it's it's really hard to see. I recommend using a magnifying glass, which is what I use. My kids got me an awesome one that has a light ring around it. Or you could take a picture. I'm serious. It's amazing.
Take a picture of it and blow it up.
I'll show you. It's like yeah.
Wow,
that
that's awesome.
The other thing, well, yeah, you look at it like.
Is that
for
for your
like
70th birthday?
Yeah, no, listen, if you need to read something on a power supply or this kind of thing,
yes,
you need
so
this.
handy, yeah.
If you're over the age of 35. And yeah, the other thing is take a photo of it with your smartphone, and then you can zoom it in. But you need to type that number in. It will register. You should have done this
That's
anyway.
What I
you
do.
Can,
yeah,
as part of your support thing. There we go. What's that?
nothing important.
Yikes.
Pay no attention to that blue screen of death.
And what you download is a 3-something gigabyte zip file that is just a folder full of files, and you format a USB drive. It's got to be, I think it's 8 or 16 gigs depending on the device. Just copy the files over, and then, if you use a Surface, hold down the volume key, hit power, wait until you see the Surface logo, and then you get into the recovery environment. But this is kind of like the last step recovery, because obviously there's recovery built into the device, but if everything goes south, you could have made a recovery disk in Windows, but if you didn't, this is a way as kind of a fallback plan. And so if everything goes south with the Surface, if this doesn't fix it, you'll have to bring it to a Microsoft store, because this is basically the end of the road with what you can do to get it fixed. And it should fix most problems, assuming you don't mind blowing the thing away, which I was very happy to do. So anyway, my Surface 3 is back and updated to Windows 10.
Yay.
Software pick, I don't get to do a lot of native Windows desktop applications, although it occurs to me that at least a couple of months ago, I recommended Firefox, which is technically a desktop application. But this is a new desktop application, and it's a word processor / text editor called Write, like writing, like with the exclamation point. It's a native Windows desktop application, which is crazy. The folks that made this said, everyone's going mobile apps and web services, and we're bucking that trend. We think native apps are the way to go. It has kind of a WPF kind of, if you think of it like apps like the Zune PC app, it's got that kind of, or Metro Twit, it's got that kind of look to it. It is a neat app. It's really nice, and I've been using it this week to write articles. It does spelling and grammar checking. There's some non-standard stuff. The way you input hyperlinks is non-standard. I'm kind of getting used to that. And when I pick, of course, most of the content that I generate gets put into WordPress and then goes out to the web. And it accepts everything and looks right except for bold and italics. For some reason, don't paste over correctly, and I'm trying to figure that one out. But it's free, obviously. There's going to be like a pro version or whatever they call it, and that's actually free for now. It gives you a bunch of extra functionality. And it's, I like it. I like the way it looks. I like the way the text looks. And it does a lot of the stuff I'm looking for. It's really nice.
Did you go with Write Pro or just the?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Nice. It looks very
also
clean,
does,
which is nice.
It's super clean. Well, what's interesting about it is every document's in a tab, and so you write your articles, you save them, you don't save them. It doesn't really kind of matter. And if you close the application and come back, all of the tabs that were there come back.
Love
and so
that.
I've done something like, if you imagine like you write an article and you complete the article and you close the application and I actually save it to the desktop as a WTT file in this case. I copy that thing to where I archive my documents and I forget about it. And then an hour goes by and I run the thing again because I'm going to write a new article. And then I see, oh, the article's it's still in the application. That's interesting. I should close it. And then it says, do you want us to save this because you made some changes? And I say, yes. And then it writes a new one back to the desktop. So it's like, even though I've kind of moved the file, it just regenerates it if you save it again. It's kind of interesting. So it's also in that sense a new style of application, like a kind of a cloud aware or it's like a sessionless application. So even if you close it, reboot, and come back, it comes back with what you were working on before.
Free. It says free at least until the 5th of November.
Yeah. Well, the pro version, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm downloading it right now.
It's nice.
WRI.TT.
Is it better than
is
Notepad,
the URL? Yes.
It looks like you should be using this, Mary Jo.
I know. I'm thinking about it as he's talking about
it.
it.
It may be a little too full-featured for you, Mary Jo. You know, I don't.
No,
like
but they get out of the way.
streamlined.
They get out of the way, though. You don't see them.
I do notice. So using Word for as long as I have has broken me in many ways, and I don't mean like emotionally. I mean it's although I do mean that really. I mean, you know, I make common typing mistakes that are caught by Word but are not caught elsewhere. So Mary Jo knows because we IM each other. I make all these mistakes. But when I type into Word, like Word catches these mistakes. Yeah. And so one of the things that Word has been catching, I now know, is that I often double capitalize a word. So I'll capitalize the first 2 letters because I type too fast, and then Word will correct that. But this thing doesn't correct that. And so I find myself continually going back and fixing double corrections, you know, double capitalizations. Interesting.
Mary Jo Foley, time for your enterprise pick of the week.
Yes, my enterprise pick of the week is it's actually 2 new services that came out into preview today for Azure. So Azure Active Directory is what we're talking about here. And people who know about Azure know that's the way that Microsoft authenticates between employee identities. That's one of the things that Azure Active Directory can do. Well, these 2 new services let you go outside where Azure Active Directory lets you authenticate now. One of these is called Azure AD B2C. B2C is the one for business to consumer. So if you're a developer and you're building any kind of an application and you want to be able to authenticate with things like Google or Facebook, and you want Azure to kind of be the way you authenticate with these consumer services, you can use Azure B2C to do that. And it builds that authentication right into your app. Azure AD B2B is if you are building apps that you want to talk to, have partners or other kind of external identities talk into Azure, but you want it all to be authenticated and secured using Azure Active Directory. So if you go on the Azure blog today, they talk about both of these. They're both in preview right now. They have very liberal licensing and payment terms while they're in preview, and after that, we'll see how the pricing will go for those. But they're both out today. It's a very interesting new extension of the authentication for Azure AD. So go check those out.
Yay. Yay. And your code name of the week?
Yes, my code name of the week is Prajna, Prajna. This is a Microsoft research project. It used to be codenamed OneNet. So you know how Microsoft was using one? Yes, right? So Microsoft used to use One as kind of a code name for so many things. One Sync, One Core, blah, blah, blah. They were using OneNet for this, and now they're calling it Prajna. So what this is basically Microsoft trying to do what Apache Spark does. And since we haven't said Hadoop for a while on the show, I thought we should talk about Spark. Right? So Spark is a data processing framework that is compatible with Hadoop. You can use it in conjunction with Hadoop. A lot of people think it's a competitor to Hadoop, but it's not. And so Microsoft Research is out there taking the F# functional programming language and trying to build something that is like Spark. It's a cluster computing kind of data processing framework that they're building around F#. They're using F# to build it. I've got some links to some white papers and some very interesting things about Prajna. And it was funny, when I tweeted it this week, it kicked off a whole debate on Twitter about whether Microsoft was actually being supportive of F# or if they were ignoring it. And people were very angry on both sides of that debate. So if you're an F# person, or if you're a Hadoop or a Spark person, you might want to go check out what is available right now from Microsoft Research on Prajna.
Prajna. Is it I'm sure you do yoga. Is it a yoga position?
It's not a yoga position. I've had a couple people talk about what it is. It's more like insight, right? It's a Buddhist term.
It's a Buddhist term. It's like
Right.
Dharma or
Yeah,
Pranya.
right. It's like wisdom. Yeah, so very interesting.
Very deep. Direct insight into the truth as taught by the Buddha. A faculty.
That's a pretty heavy code name to live up to.
Yeah, no
right?
kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Next will be Bodhisattva.
Yeah, right.
Ladies and
Well,
gentlemen.
they already have Satori.
Do they have
is
Satori?
another- Yep, they do.
Oh, wow.
That's a Bing code name. Yeah.
It's nice, though, that you knew how to pronounce it, so I like that. Not Pranja.
I know. Yep.
I think-
I was careful.
You knew. Our beer of the week.
Yes, our beer of the week is a Saison. It's from a really good brewery in Florida. We don't do enough Florida breweries. Everybody knows about Cigar City in Florida, but this is a brewery called Saint Somewhere, and they do all farmhouses and Saisons as far as I know. This beer I picked is called Saint Somewhere Noble Rouge, and they brew this beer with grapes in the beer. It's not barrel aged in wine barrels. It's actually, they throw red muscadine grapes in when they brew this beer.
What?
It tastes fantastic. It tastes kind of like a hybrid between wine and beer in a good way. So if you're somebody who's not so sure about beer or you're a little iffy on Saisons, you might want to try this, because if you do like wine, you might really enjoy the Saint Somewhere Noble Rouge.
It doesn't look reddish. It looks like a kind
It's
of
not
an
reddish.
amber.
No,
Yeah.
no. Yep. Very good. Very,
Nice.
very tasty.
And the pictures on the site are all from you. And Rattle and Hum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had it on tap at Rattle this week.
Nice. Sounds lovely. Noble Rouge. It's a little blurry, but a picture of beer
Yeah.
should be a little blurry, I think.
Yeah, it was a little hard to get that picture.
Paul Thurrott is on Untapped and Mary Jo Foley's on Untapped, so follow both of them and find out great beers near you.
Hey, guys. I have to leave.
I heard you
Okay, we're
packing.
done.
Where are you going?
I'm sorry. I'm actually going to be late if I don't leave. I'm speaking tonight in Seekonk, Massachusetts at a user
Oh, yeah,
group,
that's right.
And
Have a great time.
I need to go.
We'll see you later. Paul Thurrott's at Thurrott.com, THURROTT.com. Mary Jo Foley. You can leave now, Paul. It's all right. Just go ahead. One. Wow.
He's
Click.
out.
Mary Jo Foley's at allaboutmicrosoft.com. Between the two of them, there's nothing they don't know about Windows, and you can hear it every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC on live.twit.tv, or download it wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe. That way you'll get it each and every week. Don't forget, October 6th, meet up once again at Rattle and Hum. You could just go there I would guess, any afternoon, and you'd find Mary Jo there. I'm just thinking.
You'll find me there many days.
Many days of the week. But that will be a special one. We will be covering that live, the Windows Devices event, October 6th. And then everybody should head over to Rattle and Hum 4 to 7 p.m. for Windows meetup with not just Mary Jo and Paul, but lots of other Windows, famous window folk. Thank you, Mary Jo. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly.